all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Laura, would you do roll call, please?
Sure. Kevin Scranlin.
Here.
Janelle Keller.
Here.
Teresa Bills.
Here.
Jim Christopher.
Here.
Keith Wiederhold.
Here. With that, let's move right to the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or changes that need to be made?
I would like to add OPEB to the agenda as item number I, the letter I.
So,
OPEB, yep.
anybody else? Anything?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the addition of the letter I for OPEB for April 14th, 2025.
Wait a second.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One of the first changes, you might notice a few changes on the agenda tonight, is we moved another section of public comment to right now. I would like to say, at the MTA convention, I sat in on 3 board meeting classes, so I brought back some things, maybe you'll like, maybe you won't. But one of them is in public comment, we are not going to answer any questions. Public comment is really set up for that comment. The time to ask questions, you're more than welcome to come in the building at any time, call us, email us, text us. We'll be glad to help you with your questions. But this time is actually set aside for these boards to conduct business. So we will not be answering questions going forward. But with that being said, if there is anybody that has any public comment, feel free at this time to do so. No public comment. All right. The next thing is also different, is consent agenda. Another thing that we've talked about, in every township around us does it, so it's not anything different. The idea of this is to move in some things that, for lack of better words, are really gonna be passed anyway. A lot of them are administrative, but it's hopefully try to speed these meetings up a little bit or allow more time for the issues we really do need to discuss. So with that being said, the consent agenda A through G, is there anybody that has any questions about those on the board, or is there something anybody would like moved out of consent agenda?
I would like to move the minutes for the Township Board meeting of March 10th down to our new business to discuss those.
Okay. Move the minutes out.
So we can do that J or A, wherever you want to cover them.
You know, I mean, moving to
That's kind of what I thought.
anything else? You good? You make the motion to accept theirs?
So I would motion that we accept the consent agenda as listed for 4/14/2025 with the amendment of the Township Board minutes being moved to new business.
I'll be happy to second that.
Would you roll call that for us, please?
Okay. So with that, Kevin Scranlin,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Wiederhold.
Alright. Well, we've got a couple presentations tonight. Tina Rousseff from the Holly Library. Thank you for coming.
Where's your stamp?
Okay, where are you tonight?
Camera's right there. I'll be sure this one.
So I'm Tina Rousseff. I'm the Adult Services Manager at Holly Township Library, and we service all of the residents of Groveland Township. You have the same privileges as anyone in the Holly Village or the township. However, your population is what, 6-ish, maybe a little bit less than
Yeah.
6,000? So historically, the amount of residents that have Holly Township Library cards is around maybe 700 or 800 people. Pretty low, pretty low. So, I've been here before, trying to promote the library. I also, every month, drop off these book page magazines. They're a favorite of Teresa's. And also, kind of these mini newsletters that tell about different events that we have coming up. One of the things that'll be coming up soon is a community cleanup on Earth Day. So everyone in the public is welcome to attend, and if you come and clean up around, they'll be like around the library, our neighborhood, so not very far out from the library, and then you can get pizza afterwards for helping us. Every year we have summer reading, and it's for all ages, and we will have registration starting in June. So if you would like me to come back at your June meeting, and I can help register people right here for summer reading. It will go until August 1st. And like I said, it's for all ages, but for kids, teens, and adults, we have different reading challenges and then also prizes. So if you complete the reading challenge, then you're put in for a drawing for a reading prize. Teens get cash. So usually adults get gift cards and kids usually get baskets. For instance, like, I'm trying to think of one. But for like little kids, it might be like a board book and some other, toddler type toys. So it's always age appropriate. We typically have story time for children, for like preschoolers every month, but in April and May this year we're taking that off so that the children's librarian can plan for summer reading. Because during summer reading, especially for little kids, there's like something going on every week. So the kids can register and attend and have lots of fun. I have these newsletters, the mini newsletters, I can pass out to everyone in attendance, so you can see what is going on. For the adults, I have a lot of ongoing programs. We walk every week, and I'm really proud to say that, and Rodica has walked with us in the past, usually during good weather. But we decided we're walking at the Lakeside Memorial Cemetery now. And we decided in the fall that we would try to continue during the winter. And I would say about 3 out of 4 weeks, we walked. There might have been a really icy day we didn't walk, or maybe a really cold day that we didn't walk. But there were, I would say, 4 to 6 of us that walked all throughout the winter. So, just something that we can do in the community. And we have a lot of other programs. I have an ongoing book club, and Rodica is part of the book club also. And we meet every month. We have a whole list of all the books that we offer. Our teen librarian has really made headway into getting all the kids in the Holly schools at the high school, and I believe also at the middle school, library cards. Without them having to come into the library. Because sometimes transportation or a parent being able to get them there can be challenging. So along with that, she also has instituted a delivery service. So if a kid needs a book, they can request it through the library, and then we actually work with the school and they, deliver the books to the school. So, your library cards are good for 3 years. I know I've issued cards here before, to staff. And I'm prepared to do that tonight, so I can issue a library card as long as you have ID. And also renew your library card, so your cards are good for 3 years. I don't know, does anyone have questions?
Can you tell us when our cards are ready to be renewed?
I can look them up, yes. Cause it's renewed, so like if you get a library card today, it would be good for 3 years from today. So, but obviously everyone, you know, sometimes you might renew it 2 months before your renewal date or something, so.
I have
Sure.
2 questions. I wanna see if I understand. So the combined populations of Holly and Groveland, pulling this out of thin air, it's between 10 and 12,000.
So I believe that the Village of Holly and Holly Township have, let me add this up, because we are,
About 6,000 apiece.
is Holly too?
I think Holly Township is about 6,000.
No, Holly
I think it's a little bit,
Holly is.
Holly is 10?
yeah, I think it's a little bit more because
Village?
the Holly Township Library is considered a Class 4 library, and our population limit is 24,999. And I know that we are pretty close, but that includes the Village of Holly, the Township, Groveland, and Rose. And I think Groveland and Rose both have
We're both right.
close to
6,000.
6, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so if, and I know that, you know, there is construction, especially in the Holly Township area, that if we go over that 24,999, then we would be a Class 5 library with some additional requirements from the state.
And Tina, despite that population, you only have issued no more than 800 library cards?
For Groveland.
I see, okay.
So my point was that the percentage of residents from Groveland or Rose is low.
Thank you, that makes sense now.
So we're trying to do more outreach so that, you know, your residents know that we are here and that we service them. Especially for Groveland, I know that some of your patrons will get a Holly Township library card and then they will go to the Brandon Library, because maybe they live, you know, closer to the Brandon Library, but they're not gonna get their the full services over at Groveland,
Okay. Brandon.
or Brandon, I'm sorry.
And then regarding the walking group, are dogs welcome with that?
Yeah, we've had dogs participate before,
Okay,
Really?
yes, of course.
so, yeah,
Especially
we
really
have.
big dogs.
We have, so we meet at 11:30 for the walking, I'll pass out one, and I'll give you one of the flyers and stuff. So we have, and we've seen many other people besides in our group while we're walking through the cemetery, walking their dogs. So, dogs are allowed there, so
Okay,
as
great,
long as
thank you.
you know.
Tina,
Yeah,
if there's some events you want us to put on our sign, we can.
Oh, well, usually I try to, email,
Sure.
and let you know kind of pretty much this, and you can
Sure.
put the info
Yeah,
out there. One of the other things that I have is, you know, we have a Friends of the Library group that helps raise the money, that helps support library programs, especially our summer reading. So I have info on that too, that I'll have in the back, so if you're interested. They're always looking for new members, so,
Thank you.
okay,
Great, thanks.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wade Trim, our planner, Caitlin is here. How are you, Caitlin?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. The floor is yours.
Alright, well, hi everyone, I'm Caitlin Haven. I think I've got most of you at least in passing. I'm your newish planning consultant. For here tonight, what I was gonna talk to you about is your police power ordinance for noise control. It was something that was brought to my attention that, the township wanted to potentially do some changes to it, and so my goal tonight is to go over the audit. That was something that was provided for you guys tonight to kind of follow along, just giving me a general policy direction. The next steps in the process would be is that I would draft a red line version showing the original and what proposed changes based on the direction tonight. And then you would then move forward to a first reading and second reading and adopt those changes. So this is just the first step in this process. So the other correspondence that was in your packet is that we did talk to the state police that does a lot of our different enforcement efforts regarding noise control. Right now, your zoning or your police power ordinance for this is very objective. It's based on the decibel reading, so you have to have equipment, you have to have properly trained staff to go to different property lines, get the reading, is it compliant or is it not compliant? State police suggested that they find it easier to do subjective monitoring for that, and I'll get into that a little bit as I kind of go through. So does everyone have the audit in front of them? It should be a table that has grayed out horizons. Okay, good. So the first thing is that your current ordinance doesn't have a purpose statement, and so most police powers do, and so it's just talking about, well, why do you control noise? Well, it's to protect public safety welfare, but not only that, but it's to have a predictability of what's comfort, what is convenient for residents, as well as non-interfering with our First Amendment. And so we would propose adding that as part of one of the changes. More or less, that sounds like a good idea? Okay. All right, so we'll do that. The second one, as I mentioned, there's objective versus subjective. So objective being measurable, it's really easy to tell if there's compliance or not. You took the device, which most of us have cell phones that have a makeshift one that you can utilize. I'd recommend a more professional one for compliance purposes, but it's very easy to tell thresholds. Subjective is based on a person's preference. However, for most municipalities, subjective is the way they go, especially rural communities, because a reasonable person, your code enforcement officer, a police officer, can stand in somebody's driveway or at a property line and say this was excessively loud for 2 in the morning in a rural area. And the judge will follow through with that basic judgment call. And so that's, and then they can, again, provide witness to, well, there was a rhythm to it, there was whatever the case is. As opposed to it being, well, I measured it and actually it was 2 decibels below where it needed to be for us to have a problem. So that's something that I guess I would look for direction to if you wanted to rewrite it to be more subjective, in which you would say it's being unreasonably loud, more or less, as opposed to maintaining it being measurable and objective.
So you can take objective right out then and make it all subjective?
Correct.
Okay. And that's, not to cut you off, but that will stand up in court most of the time?
Yes. Again, and part of it goes back to who is doing that. It is not some random person doing that. It's your code enforcement officer. It's your state police officer, and so they can reasonably do things. The other thing that's nice about today's world is you can also take a video. So again, you can have a certain level of, granted it's not the same thing as living in that situation, but a cell phone recording of what the sound sounds like can also be permissible in a court situation. Trying to get away from your miscellaneous problems.
I just have a couple questions on that. First of all, if we happen to, not saying we do, what if we had an attorney that we didn't think would really take something like that to court if it was subjective?
Well, your attorney serves at the prerogative of the township board regarding what you choose to enforce versus not enforce. And so your attorney more or less should be prosecuting in the way that you see fit. The thing with noise, though, as you kind of implied, it can be, it's something you'll have to weigh out. Do you have enough evidence associated with this to do this compliance? Or not? And your attorney is well versed in this, and so they would be able to walk you through the pros and cons of where do we find compliance as opposed to, where do we compromise and say, and pursue that, violation or things of that nature.
The second question that I had, and I know you said that you could like record and stuff, so we have MSP. I don't know, and I could be wrong, but if we're calling for an issue like this, our ordinance officer probably isn't gonna show up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, it's gonna be.
So it'd be the MSP, but they often, that may be something that they don't show up for a while, if I had to guess, because it's not an emergency. Help me out here, John, I don't know what you think, but,
No, it has a lower priority on their dispatch, so it
Yeah.
could be, you know, there could be 5 accidents ahead of it, so they're not gonna get there for 2 hours.
yeah. And maybe that's just a problem with this in general for our community because of how we are, you know, what we have established here, but have you seen any issues like that? I'm just curious.
So there's a difference between, objective, subjective, and enforcement as its own policy problem.
Yeah.
So some communities, depending on what the nuisance is per se, you would have different officials say, as the supervisor, I will go and observe it, or if you had a code enforcement officer, sometimes building officials, have been able to bring that expertise and say this was excessively loud. So depending on what the nuisance is, so if it is somebody that has a neighbor war and they play their music at 2 in the morning
Right.
all the time randomly or whatever the case is, that's always something that the township can say, this is something you need to pursue privately, as opposed to it being a public
Okay.
nuisance. So again, can't give you specifics
No,
because it's
that's
all
okay.
over the place with noise specifically.
Yeah,
But I do know that, from an enforcement standpoint, you really wanna evaluate, okay, what's the complaint? You evaluate what is the level of pursuing that verification of compliance. And then if you need to proceed with litigation, then the pros and cons of that. So I'm looking for direction if you wanna see it rewritten to be subjective or being objective.
Thing about a measurable objective is if you've got the meter, you gotta have a certified meter, how far were you from the nuisance, there's a lot of things that come into play that you'd have to verify to make it legit. Subjective is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I would agree with Keith, especially
Yeah.
if you're talking
Had a lot of
state
issues.
police and building officials, make it subjective.
I agree.
Alright, that'll change some of our content as we further discuss, because some definitions will be necessary and others don't. So the definition section, the intent of it in being in the police powers, we want a unique definition, so it's very clear what we mean as this township for that term. As opposed to generic terms, you don't have to define, so we don't have to define a house in every single ordinance we have, because that more or less isn't as important as like a zoning ordinance that's use-based, that's more important to know. So I recommended the removal of a few different components. One is the commercial areas, so listed out zoning districts you no longer have, with your zoning ordinance being updated last year. Daytime, but it didn't state times, it just said daytime. And so we would change to a different, more clear component of it, and then versus nighttime, kind of taking those definitions out, because when you look at the rules say from 11 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning, that's quiet time. You don't, I would just rather put hours in the requirement rather than saying nighttime. Well, what does that mean? Now you have to go back up to definitions, just put the times in every time. Residential areas, again, list outdated zoning districts. One of the things I wasn't clear about in rural communities is, do you count your agricultural zoning district as residential, or is that not residential? So in thinking about it, you can put exemptions on farm equipment. So if, again, it's Tuesday night, it's gonna rain tomorrow, we need to finish the field. Most communities, you're not going to stop that farmer from doing their conduct that they need to.
Are they exempt anyway, like under the right to farm act?
Yeah, so typically it's exempted. I wouldn't recommend pursuing that, but same thing with, and so, but the thing comes into like regular day hours, do you typically want to include or encourage that level, the same level of tolerance? So I would say generally speaking, your agriculture have a different tolerance of noise in a way, because it's not like a single-family residential neighborhood or an apartment complex or something of that nature. Is that generally how we would tend to lean as well, that agriculture would be not the extra protected, or would you like to maintain it as being protected in the same way?
Looking at me? No, leave the farmers out of it.
I knew you were gonna say that.
They're not gonna stop anyway.
That's right.
Yes, correct.
So that's where the big parties are gonna happen, is what you're saying.
Right.
Come on.
I will put then the ag and the non-residential. Okay. And then we don't need to worry about defining decibel readings then, because, we're no longer doing it through the objective method. A pet peeve of mine, it does, define real property boundary, and it uses the term imaginary line. Prefer not to use imagination between properties, it's just it's a division of ownership. Let's keep imagination out of it, and it is very real for people, where I own and don't own, so, that's a personal pet peeve. The fourth one, we don't have to worry about adding, because again, we don't have, it being as measurable, in that sense. The next section talks about what's a prohibited act, so this is more of the meat and potatoes of the regulation. The current requirements is that no person can make noise after 11 p.m. But it doesn't say when that starts in the morning time. And so it kind of has this awkward window that doesn't really end other than 11. So I didn't know if you knew, when would you like in the morning it to be considered quiet time? Some communities have 5, 6, 7, or 8.
Can it be indexed dawn plus a half an hour or something like that?
You could.
I can tell you that, the semis can't go down my road until 6 a.m.
Having it be measurable is easier.
Yeah.
Because even if it's dark at 8, people still have a work schedule to adhere
Right.
to.
Right.
I think 6 is fair.
I think 6 is fair.
Roosters are out.
And you guys still like 11 p.m. And so one of the things that's also done is compliance is measured at the property line. And so that's very common practice, because more or less it's where does your nuisance start? It's where my rights start is where your ends. And so being at the property line, that's very common practice. But one of the things it talks about is it's receiving residential land uses or a place of public entertainment. And so in consideration of that, there is a loophole. So we're not doing any noise enforcement then on commercial or industrial properties. Was that our intent? Now, you do have a zoning ordinance, and the hours of operation, the noise concerns associated with that still stand. But the question becomes, regardless of that component, how do you want overall to have that noise compliance done? Do we want to include commercial nuisances or industrial nuisances?
Are we adequately covered on the other side, on the zoning side?
I would say I think it's better to have a rule that blankets everybody, as opposed to, I don't know your history well enough to know how far back that goes. This police power ordinance would not have the same level of grandfathering, for lack of a better term, where zoning does for
Right.
everything. So I would say that it would be best to make everyone on the same playing field. So if there's a commercial to commercial, the commercial operation right now as it stands wouldn't be able to complain about somebody else in the commercial district being excessively noisy for operating in a commercial area, which clearly would be a higher threshold, but.
I think all our gravel pits have hours of operations now, don't they have a time set that they have to stop and start?
They do.
Would your suggestion be, I mean, I guess it's our community, I know, but to just then have it for everyone?
So the zoning portion, again, for those specific uses, those would be still held separate.
Yeah.
But and we would have them be more general and then have all these caveats that say, unless otherwise stated,
Yeah.
or rules or conducts that the township has. So we would provide gravity to maneuver with other components, but right now, somebody commercial could not complain about their other commercial
Yeah.
neighbor. An industrial neighbor could not complain about another industrial neighbor. It's only for residential and then places of public entertainment, which could be a whole lot of different things.
Farm.
Public entertainment, right.
So yeah, so what, I mean, would your recommendation be to permit that for commercial being able to?
Yep, I would expand that just so that it's a more level playing field. So I think commercial, industrial, again, with that subjective standard, somebody could reasonably say that person, again, neighbor to neighbor dispute, private, commercial enterprises can have the same level of dispute as residential, usually not as, thriving, but, you can still have those different disputes on the noise level
Do
and
we,
play excessively.
create any kind of conflict for ourselves with the zoning being one limitation and then the ordinance being something different?
Nope, we're gonna
But in
make
the
them
language.
complementary.
So on the zoning side, is there a measurable enforcement on that side?
I don't believe so, I believe it is subjective.
Cause that might be, you might have more of a fight on the commercial side if somebody was crushing concrete 24/7, making all kinds of racket and they're well above the decibel level, and the subjective is probably gonna have a fight. This person thought it was too loud, but maybe it wasn't too loud. What is too loud? He just thought it was.
And so, at least at the zoning level, what would happen when anything comes in is you would say, I need to know all of your equipment and what that potential nuisance may be. And what are you as the operator gonna do to minimize or eliminate that nuisance? And so we have some measurability within zoning that's part of that, and that would be maintained. We'd make sure that those are complementary and cross-reference each other, no conflict. And I guess the other component is, do you wanna keep that the highest level, of protected, I guess, uses is residential and places of public entertainment?
What's your recommendation?
Places of public entertainment seems odd to me as being protected as opposed to being the nuisance. So I thought that was different.
Well, what I'm thinking there's River Rock's got a band playing outside or something. Is that protected, or is that they need to quiet down by 11 p.m. too?
Are we there?
Unless there's a big bonfire at the farm.
Right, and so that would be your commercial example, so that might be a reason why.
Is that a place of entertainment then?
Yeah, that's where I don't quite understand the terminology
it
for
like-
it. It's relatively unique, like Orion Township
Is it
doesn't have
something-
it in their
I wonder if it's
ordinance.
something unique to us because of like the Renaissance Festival or Haunted Manor or something.
That I don't know, it's a relatively older ordinance, so not to say that somebody rip-offs and replicates and then they didn't really think about it, don't know. But that seemed odd that they were in the same tier as residential land uses.
Yeah.
That is always coveted as the highest protected. It just felt odd that public entertainment was also protected as opposed to inquiring about the nuisance from that operation.
I'm kind of with you on that one. I like
What's
the, oh, Jim just said, yeah, we gotta get rid of that. I said, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, I would think we would.
But I like that next one she's about to get to. I like that. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Let me write this down.
What do you think?
No, I agree, I think it should be removed.
I think we should take that piece out.
So some different content that your ordinance doesn't currently have, that I think would be beneficial, is a waiver. So some communities allow the township board to waive specific events or social occasions from noise requirements. Keep in mind is, again, we have hours of operation for special land uses, so like your haunted manor. Again, we have a blanket regulation, but we have flexibility with that as things come up or things of that nature. Do we like the idea of having some type of waiver? So you could say, anyone that's having an event as part of their commercial operation. So, if they were to have a band night outside their parking lot, that's not something you're clearly trying to enforce through your noise ordinance, if that were to be the
So
case.
that would be like a specific instance, would it be like a whole season, like the whole Halloween season, or would you say that this Saturday night, we're gonna have a hootenanny somewhere in?
The language in this ordinance would be generic, and then what it would reference to is again your zoning ordinance language, which would be more specific. And we can provide a few examples too, so that way when you come to draft one, you can say, we like these two, we like this one better, or we want this one, but tweak it. Alright, so I'll add the waiver. The other one is penalty, so it's not clear what route you would go, if that's a civil infraction or if there's a ticketing system associated with that violation. So I do recommend some level of violation clearly spelled out. Do you by chance know how you currently operate with those? Typically they have been tickets, I'm assuming, because of the state police's involvement, but.
I would think maybe like a tiered system, maybe like a warning the first time, maybe a ticket the second time, a third time public hanging.
Bring that back.
Don't we have something in place already? Isn't there something in the ordinances about an escalation?
Yeah, I think so.
There is an escalation. I couldn't tell you what.
I do know, Galen, that it has been hard to, do anything about it because a lot of the complaints, they might be when the ordinance officer wasn't around or somebody wouldn't go out to, so I don't know. The only thing I could think about, I know that there was a situation within the last couple of years with, remember the lady with the really loud music next door during the day? That's the only one I can think about, and I don't know where that ever went. So I'm not sure.
So what would help that I could provide to help you make that decision? Would you like me to send an email to your municipal attorney to say, hey, what's your preference as far as what is the most enforceable? I would say tickets are always easier than civil infractions because they don't require an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, we like it easy.
So, excuse me, everybody, hang on. Earlier in this conversation, we talked about, at least I think we did, the opportunity when it's subjective to perhaps have a supervisor or township designee to subjectively say it's too loud. If we had law enforcement let's go back to having a municipal review. Would it be easier to write a violation under that premise and more likely for quicker response than it would be through law enforcement? And could the fire department be designated as people, since they're close and around, to evaluate if it's too loud? Sorry, John.
Trying to make us the bad guys.
So I guess let me go back to the first question. So one of the things with enforcement, again, it's at the prerogative of the township as a whole. So I don't necessarily think you should add in this ordinance exactly the step thresholds that you need to do. So it's not, the designee notifies you via letter, or then they give you 2 warnings or 3 warnings. It's purposely not written that way to give you more flexibility. At what point does it become enough of a nuisance or a clear violation in which you want to do a ticket or you want to do a municipal infraction? And so you do have gravity to determine, do you want to have an official locally just more or less say, oh, you know what, that was excessively loud. Let's just talk to them real quick, see if it's just a simple misunderstanding, or you evaluate and say, oh, this is a rivalry. This is not something the township's going to get into. And so you can evaluate it on a case-by-case basis. But at least putting something more clearly specified on how you process that from a civil infraction versus a ticket just helps from that operation standpoint. I'll leave it to you though on the designee. I'm not aware of that being common practice to have your fire officials doing that. But again, I'm not everywhere, so.
I'm all for having some manner of infraction, how we orchestrate it. I'm willing to listen to.
Yeah, I like the ticket idea. Maybe you could come up with a fee schedule on that.
And the one thing we would wanna make sure we do not do is we do not put costs in the penalty provisions. And the reason is because once we put that in, we can't adjust it regularly. And so $15 today is not the $15 of tomorrow. And so, that's something you again, put in your fee schedule and review on an annual basis and hopefully approve, is those violation fees. You can have it be more technical that way, cause we would just say, hey, cross-reference that fee schedule, and you could say, well, initially we're gonna do a flat rate, and then you say, you know what, this isn't working, we wanna have a escalation component. That can be all part of your fee schedule, and evaluate it annually, as part of that. One other thing that, some communities have is that they, specifically choose to regulate excessive noise from motor vehicles or off-road vehicles. I'll say that some communities have had bad luck when they choose that, because one thing you should always do is never write a rule you're not willing to enforce. So if you do not want to be chasing down neighbors with their ORVs and stuff like that, then we should not be putting a rule to that, especially again with people enjoying their quads or 4x4s and doing whatever they want on their property. If you don't want to be enforcing that, then we should not write a rule associated with that. So, do you want to have something on vehicles or no?
Does it matter? Noise is noise regardless where it comes from. Why do we have to include?
You don't have to. So some municipalities, so as you get more urban, they feel the need that it's more of a public nuisance to have quads going around their entire city in a situation, as opposed to like if you go north of here or an Elmont Township or something like that, your wide open spaces, what you do is what you do, that's why you're here. And so I would say Elmont Township, I think they've repealed it since, but they initially put something in place because they had a couple of feuding neighbors over quads. And that turned into a bigger community annoyance because now they can do their different vehicles all the time because they're relatively loud, especially if you're got a teenager or something of that nature. And then you just constantly get calls because people know that that's a rule and they can harass somebody over it and you're stuck in the middle. So generally speaking, for your community, I would not recommend vehicles, but I didn't want to not present it because it is something some communities choose to do.
Did you find in those other communities were these extras that they had policies like during the daytime?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be kind of a difference, I would say, right?
Right.
I myself would say to leave it out.
I agree.
It's a case by case thing.
We had a resident come here a
Yeah.
couple years ago who wanted to be allowed to drive off-road vehicles on our roads. Not like loud, but a golf cart or something like that, and it didn't go anywhere because we're still complying with state and things like that. But I think if we were to rule out things like specifically, we're setting ourselves up for a massive issue.
Okay. Next is exemptions. So it doesn't clearly specify what things are exempted. So for example, farm equipment is typically exempted. So I would like to specifically name that. Some are like commercial or power equipment, so like generators are clearly something you could exempt. Again, power tools, things of that nature, that's not the intention. Again, residential power equipment, so lawn mowers, generators, things of that nature. We're not going for the one lady that loves using her blower. She wants to spend the whole day chasing a bunch of leaves. That is you and your neighbor. Enjoy. But that's something that we want to caveat and not put the township in the middle of when again we're talking about what's unreasonably excessive, and we're not chasing people that happen to like to mow their lawn all the time or use a weed whacker or whatever the case is. We don't want to be in the middle of those situations. So all of those sound more or less okay.
I'm so sorry, Caitlin, that third one, what would be like an example of that?
Some construction time frame. So in a new construction, you would have a equipment that would be on site,
Gotcha.
that they could be using.
Okay.
Does our building permit application restrict times?
I don't believe so. But they would fall under the 11 to 6.
Correct, so if
Quiet
someone's
time.
re-roofing their entire house, that's something that you wait till
Sure.
noise hours.
Yeah.
Alright.
The other thing is new standard content, so something that, again, each police power is an ordinance in itself. So I didn't see anything talking about repealing, saving clause, severability, or the effective date. And so those are standard sub-art or subset content articles that we wanna keep, severability being one of the most important. So if this were to go into litigation, if a judge were to say you have this one rule, 3A, that we don't agree with, you're not throwing out your entire ordinance, it's severing just that provision. Super important.
Okay.
So that's some standard content that we would propose adding. There are some under general provisions, that I guess most attorneys could, so I don't think you're totally out of the problem of that, but I like to keep everything, an ordinance is an ordinance, and so we replicate that information there. So that is all the information I was looking for tonight to do direction. So the next time you would see me, I'd have a draft with you showing your original content, based on our discussion, what would be changing, and then we could further discuss that, if there's any tweaks to that, and then you would go through your first and second readings.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. And then we'll probably do unfinished business. I don't think we have any, so we'll move to new business. Did you want to start with the minutes now?
Oh, sure. So I just had one thing. So I was not at the last board meeting. And it looks like in our minutes, so we have, and it may have just been when it was presented, I'm not sure, but it looks like the budget amendments were presented, but they're cushioned right now under the public hearing. So I think we just need to move that from the public hearing, because that pertains to our future budget, back into our budget amendment section that was our prior budget. So that was the one thing I just wanted to make sure we had. Was that, I assume that was accurate from the meeting that's.
You're accurate.
Same page, I just wanna point out that, it says we raised the elected salary 3%, we actually raised it 3.1%, because we matched the rate of inflation, so that should be changed from 3 to 3.1.
Sorry.
Anything else?
I've got one minor correction. Page 6, under planning commission law. The first bullet point, the company name is Vesper. We have it down as Vespar, P-A-R, it's P-E-R. That's all I've done.
Anything else?
Of course I would like to. I motion that we accept the Township Board minutes from March 10th, 2025 with the amendments.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So, we discussed road commission dust program, dust control program. You guys should all have in your packets the proposal from the county, which is pretty standard from the years past. I went back and looked. I guess the decision is this, so the proposed 4 applications ends up being $63,097.92. If we do 5 applications, it's $78,872.40. If you look though on the first page, right at the bottom, it says our RCOC will continue the flexibility of this program as well. A township that originally signs up for 4 applications may adjust to the 5th, provided a notice given to RCOC prior to the completion of the 3rd application.
Completion of the third.
of the third, you have to opt in for the fifth, if you don't now. I gotta be honest, and I'm not good to talk about this stuff, cause I hate it, but for $15,000, in my mind, I would wait and see what the summer brought. If we were in a drought and we thought we needed a fifth application, we can opt into that. If we're going along fine and we think 4 is good, we can save almost $16,000.
So if we did that, we generally have the 3 major holidays, right? Memorial Day, 4th of July,
It
Labor
says
Day
in
for
here,
sprays, and then there's a couple randoms that we usually get throughout the year as needed.
yeah,
So we would have one random one then.
I was looking, it gives you the timetable in here, it starts like the 1st of May. Basically, our third application is gonna be in July, which would probably be around the 4th, would be my guess. And when I say that, we're talking to the road commission all the time, so we will know before we do the third application. But if we didn't need 5, we could save $16,000. Jim, your thoughts?
I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I usually have just blanketly said 5 is good, but never once thought about take a wait and see attitude, so I'm good with that.
This is dust control.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm not looking at the right documents here.
Oh,
Tri-farm program.
that's tri-farm. Keep digging.
Yeah, you're gonna go quite a bit down, Teresa, it's about this far down. Yeah, that's all the consent agenda stuff.
Oh, okay. And I thought, I knew I saw it, because I was looking at it. I don't know, it's always so confusing, you know, it's contentious because, I mean, just driving down Wildwood Road today, it's super duper dusty, and so I was thinking to myself, when are they gonna put the chloride down?
No,
Right?
1st of May.
And it's only April 14th. So, my only concern is if we only go with 4 and we have to make that commitment prior to the completion of the third application, I wouldn't wanna miss our opportunity to make sure that we can add a 5th, if we want to add a 5th. And, I mean, they chloride all the way through October, don't they?
Well, they
It's
will
a
Oak Hill,
long
As
season.
needed.
they will Oak Hill and Wildwood Road net, they do not our roads. We get our 5 applications at this point and we're done. We're not responsible on Oak Hill in Wildwood or Oakland, they make that calls.
Oh.
That's county.
Oh,
That's why Wildwood Road will probably get chlorided before McGinnis Road ever gets chlorided.
well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying yes to 4 as long as we keep that on our radar.
Sure.
And we make sure that we don't blow it and miss our opportunity to add that 5th
Yep.
treatment if we want it.
Yeah, and we can actually probably even discuss that at the June meeting. We'll have 2 applications and we'll see where we're at.
Okay?
I make a motion, we go with 4 applications and we'll revisit the 5th.
I'll second that.
Just point of information or inquiry, do we know what Barry wants?
Yeah, I talked to Barry, he said whatever we decided was
Okay,
good with Barry.
okay.
Roll call please, Earl.
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Weiderholt,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin.
Yes. Alright, so the next one is to discuss cameras and security. I hope all of you had a chance to look over this montage of bids.
Thank you, I was wondering if that.
One thing I will bring up, so Laura doesn't yell at me, is we do have to have a camera on that ballot box by August 21st. So I think we know this is something that's been ongoing. It's something we need to take care of. for lack of better terms.
Apparently you have on an Narcan box too.
Did you empty the Narcan box out yet?
So, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through it, there's a lot here.
There is
There's-
a lot.
There's a lot, and it may be too much,
So just a couple of points, it's like the Verkati or whoever the first one,
Verkada.
Verkada, they had 3 different proposals in there based on a
3, 5,
3,
10.
5, and a 10-year
Yep.
program.
Yep.
The others didn't have that.
So theirs is an upfront cost for everything. There's no monthly service fee, there's nothing, you just pay for it. Minimum was 3 years, and, yeah, it's just the one-time payment. If,
We would own all the equipment.
and then we would have everything, yeah, we would own everything. If we did have a problem with like a camera, they said typically they can figure everything out like right through their text. Like we just call them up and they walk us through it. Because it's cloud-based, they kind of have access to everything. That is the other big difference with that one, is everything is cloud-based. It's much different. They actually reached out to me, like right around the time that we were kind of looking. So, I know Teresa and Kevin had the opportunity to kind of get a little information from them. But yeah, as far as, they had something here that explained their service policy too. But as far as like if there were issues, most of the time they do it right over the phone, and if they did have a service tech that needed to come out, I think they said it was, I think they might have said $100, but I'm trying to find that now here, because there's a lot of paperwork. That's not the one. $75 and travel time, like if they had to come out and replace a camera or something.
After some warranty period, right?
That's a good question. I would assume so. I don't remember if that was in here. Oh, these are original cameras. So I don't have that answer, Jim.
Some of them were reusing some of our equipment. and
Some of them
some
were,
equipment that,
yeah.
For first, I do a new equipment for everything, but.
It was on the table by the back.
There's
That
a note in
was,
there, just as an example, on one of them, all of their equipment
Janelle has the little
can be integrated with any
Excel
open platform.
spreadsheet.
So that, which is, it's not proprietary.
I forgot the
So
word
sometimes
they
you get a company that's
used.
proprietary and you
Yeah.
can't use anything else with their system, or theirs won't work on anything else. So if we bought a bunch of stuff that was proprietary, we can't add another camera, replace a
Yeah.
camera without buying theirs, and then you're kind of at their mercy, depending on what that equipment is.
That was Verkada?
This is in the Prudential.
Oh, Prudential,
quote,
okay.
But just in general, I mean, the equipment, they list out the actual part numbers of equipment on a lot of stuff, so it's hard to compare apples to apples on a lot of things just because of what.
Yeah.
Equipment is a huge range.
And honestly, this was, we gave every one of them the same parameters from a bid that we already had. So it was basically clean slate, all numbers, logos, and said, give us as best as you can, apples to apples, so that we can kind of compare, you know, as best as we can. But there's still a lot of information here. So you're gonna see that first one, Verkada, again, that's pay up front, cloud-based. We then get into some of these others. The little sheet that Kevin has right now is as best as possible, kind of explains some of them. Do you remember if that one number was updated to reflect both bids, or does it have just one?
It just has the one.
Okay. So they also separated it out by cameras, security system, and sometimes even camera, security system, and keypads. Yeah, access control. So, one of them that says it's about $6,000 is not including either cameras or access control. Do you remember which one?
I think it's the access control.
Access control. So it would be additional money with that access control. What you got there, Kevin? Go ahead. You were gonna say something? Oh.
No, I went through these quotes, and these are just rough numbers, and I just went to 3 years like Verkada. So if you did 3 years of Verkada, it was $27,302. Sonatrol was roughly $21,583. Guardian was $19,232. EPS was $13,200, and Prudential was $19,582.
Including the 3 years of monthly services.
Yep.
Some of these
I
have-
included the services and the upfront
So
costs.
like on this particular sheet, Guardian is an example, there's a monthly fee of $125, so there's 2 items on it, there's another fee of
Yep.
$75.
I counted all in, and, yeah, I counted all the fees in. So that was a 3-year number.
And some of them, you know, do have those terms, the contracts, as you saw, some don't.
Who do we have now?
So we actually have a combination right now. So we have a combination of Guardian and Sonatrol. And in this pile is a sticky note for me. I just don't know where I put it. Oh, it's here. So we pay about $2,600 a year right now for Guardian, but we have no contract. So our contract now is just, it's old, it's expired, we're just kind of renewing it annually. That is for our cameras. We have 8 cameras. So for those of you, Keith, I don't think you were here when we had first addressed this, and anybody else. The biggest issue is the camera. We need a camera on the back of the building, and we need 30 days retention. What we currently have with Guardian, we only have 8 cameras, and the system that we have is not strong enough, powerful enough to store that 30-day retention. So it would need an upgrade either way. And then of course we need that extra camera. So we can add an extra camera on the current system we have, but it wouldn't have that 30-day retention. Additionally, we have Sonatrol, which is about $1,000 per year. Those are just our panic buttons. And there is a camera attached to each of those panic buttons as well. So we have it separated. I think the board's intention when they talked about this a couple years ago, now we're a new board, I suppose we can think differently, was to try to get everything under one umbrella, so it was just one organization.
And access control is a new element.
And access control was, yeah, kind of a new idea, that, you know, some board members were interested in. I do think that it would be useful specifically for this room and the basement. We do have residents who use this, and right now they borrow a key. Probably not the best practice, but thankfully we have trustworthy residents. So I definitely think that would be nice. Is it necessary? It's up to us, I guess, but.
The basement you're referring
Yeah.
for election workers, for your election
Pardon?
times.
Oh, yeah, so for, right now, and actually even that, truthfully, even if we had one, they could walk through here, but right now for early voting, we do everything downstairs. So for all of last year, every one of those early voting days, either Laura or myself, one of us showed up to make sure we could let the inspectors in. Because that was, you know, the option that we had, so.
And you would be okay if you did it remotely? Did you have to be here?
We did not have to be here all the time, no. Some days we were required to be here.
So you could do it remotely?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Especially now. I mean, at the beginning, we were here like every day, every minute, trying to figure out what early voting was all about. But now we definitely have a group that's like really trustworthy, and I would have no problem with that. So, there's a lot of information here. Is anyone, you know, do you have questions on what you see?
Do you have a recommendation?
It really depends on what this board is looking for. I mean, we have, I think, benefits of quite a few of them. But, I mean, you know, does the board want a one-time payment and the Cadillac of security? Maybe. Are we looking to kind of just, you know, stick with a lot of what we have already? I really don't have a recommendation. I don't feel strongly about any specific company. I just want a company.
It's not something that works.
Yeah, and this is a lot of information. I know Laura will kill me for making this statement. So, like Kevin,
She's already discussed it with you.
Frowning.
I do wanna make sure we have an educated decision. That is important to me, and I'm sure to you too. So if this is something that we're not comfortable making tonight, because this is a lot of information, if we need to mull it over, we can bring it back to the next board meeting, but I do think a decision needs to be made by then. And the other thing that I would like to note is the installation. So some of these, can be right away. Most of them are right away. The Sonatrol is the only one right now that they are approximately going to be able to install around August. That is a little concerning, but I also know you know some people there. But everybody else was within about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
So can I recommend that we reduce this list to 3, maybe 2, and then we do a deep dive on it and then make a choice the next month?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Keith, are you done? I have a similar, I have 2 things to say. I think that's an excellent idea, and I was gonna go there, but I'd like to further that by whoever the last 2 are, or 3, but 2, I think it's great, to bring them in to address the board. Because we don't have, let's assume Keith and I do this a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have the expertise to mentor somebody. Let the sales nerds come in and discuss it. And then regarding the first point, I've said for a year, however, I have a phenomenal working relationship with Sonatrol. I cannot tell you all the things that I just smile that they do proactively, from secondary and tertiary calls to reminders to just all manner of ease to their technicians call, as opposed to going to a dispatcher to call. It's just a pleasure to work with them. That's all I can say, you folks. A few years down the line, and I haven't had a chance to look to see if there's been, low bid, high bid. In this case, if they're close, I mean, I didn't even say negotiated with them. I just think they're the best alarm company I've ever dealt with in the last 20 years. And so I just want to, again, say that.
Yeah, and just so you know, Laura spoke with Prudential and EPS. Were they willing to come to a meeting? Did they mention that at all?
Everybody's willing to come out here.
Did they mention that they would be willing? I only say that because I do know that Verkada, Guardian, and Sonatrol, all 3 of them did also ask if we wanted them to come tonight.
Well, then let's get it narrowed down to 2
Okay?
for next meeting.
Do that.
Get a hat. draw
I
names.
have no idea. I don't know what to do.
Keith, what would be your suggestions?
I would think we already do some work with Sonatrol. That's a positive. I believe the Verkade is expensive.
Yep.
But if it's the Cadillac of the systems, it's interesting, but it also concerns me a little bit that even on a 3-year agreement, that's like a very fluid industry, that technology. And 3 years from now, they may say, oh, we don't support those cameras anymore.
Sure.
Now you gotta get new cameras, and that's another big chunk
Okay.
up front. I don't know if they would do that, but I just see it.
Who did the other municipal work? Was that Prudential, Laura?
Yeah.
Yep, they did Secretary of State's.
Okay.
Yeah, Prudential has a lot of the secretary, is it all of them in Michigan?
Well,
So they,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
There seems to be 3 companies that are kind of right in the same ballpark figure, right? Verkada seems higher, the one
EPS is
seems
lower.
lower. I don't know, maybe we should go with the 3 that are kind of
Sure.
similar and see if we can get 3 of them to present. That would be Sonatrol, Guardian, and Prudential.
I'm good with that. I mean,
Yeah,
they're all right.
I mean,
Basically within $2,000 of each other. So.
and they all offered everything that you requested them to.
Yeah, so they, a lot of them separated it out so that you see it in different packages. I just need 30-day retention on my camera.
Well, then why don't we get Sonatrol, Guardian, and Prudential here?
Okay?
And I'm sure if we talk to Sonatrol, if that's who we decided, I'm sure they can maybe work us up their schedule, so, to make the
I'm
installation
sure I
work.
will have some influence based upon 20 years, I'm just saying, you want the work, you're gonna figure this out.
And that's one of the sticking points when we do meet with them, is that we have to have it by this time.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, there's no choice with the election.
I have, to everybody here, I have heard that on my projects, and I never cry wolf on them, and they figure it out. They know, not crying wolf, here's the drop dead date, and they do it.
So just one other question, is this a special meeting we have to meet with them? Because it could, a public meeting, it could take a lot of time.
Gives them a meeting.
And then for our next meeting, our next monthly meeting, then we can
It's not a
actually
bad idea, Keith.
vote on it.
Special meeting.
Well, and honestly, like, I mean, any one of you can speak to these people if you have questions, you know, it doesn't have to be in a board meeting that you get the information,
True.
so we could approach it that way as well. I mean, Ashley's been out at least 3 times, I think, in the last 2 years. So I'm sure she'd be willing to come again, but we can also, like, you can talk to them if you had questions, specific questions, or if there was one you're leaning toward. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, cause I agree, it could take a long time, but if you could get some of those questions answered beforehand, or if there was additional information that someone's looking for, like, I would be happy to reach out, you know, and get that, and we could just forward it all along, so you have some of that.
Yeah, like that. Make a contact with them, and everybody can talk to them individually
You wanna do that?
and get their questions answered. I think so. You guys good with that?
What?
If we just reach out to them individually and have our questions answered.
And then we come to the next board meeting ready to make the decision?
Yep.
No presentations needed?
I'm
Unless you
not
want
sure
it.
we're all capable of doing that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
I mean, if that's the situation, then maybe we're just best to make a decision tonight.
I was gonna say, I can abstain from voting, because I don't feel like I know enough about, to me, I could go with any of them, because they all seem like they're gonna meet the criteria. Again, I don't know that we need the most expensive plan on the planet, right? But, you guys have talked to them, you guys have, you know, gotten all these, like, I got this packet over the weekend, so for me, I didn't have enough time to really make any sort of final decisions. It's a lot of paperwork. But I would trust that an educated, informed opinion about it would be something that I could support.
I mean, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I brought this a year ago and just said, let's just do gardening and upgrade it and do it all. If I had to pick right now, that's probably what I'd say, because I've worked with them and they're here. That being said, I know not everyone would support that. So, yeah, I guess if you're looking for an educated guess, just guess, because I haven't worked with these others. Sonatrol, yes, but really that's writing the check and testing the panic, the panic buttons.
Which they were out for a very long time.
Yeah, and we paid for them for a long time and they were not even in service. That probably wasn't the best. But I don't care, I just need a camera. And this has been 2 years.
Well, we definitely need it.
Yeah.
Because it is expensive, I think, to go into it, we need to be informed. So that, I would like to wait till next month to decide, and just however we do that, if we're gonna do it as a group or individually, to talk to the people, because I feel like, Teresa, I need to know more about it too. If I was gonna do this, if I was doing this at work and I had 5 bids come in, my engineers would break it all down and put it in a spreadsheet where we
Yeah.
could look at it and say, yes, well, I didn't make it.
And we'll set it up for them to present.
Yeah,
I
how
think if
about
that's-
we give them a hard half hour apiece and that's it.
Yep, okay.
Or some component, whatever, 20.
As a special meeting?
I was gonna say, then that maybe is something we should, are we gonna do that in
I
a
would
board
do it.
meeting for a half hour piece?
No, I would do a special meeting, do it Wednesday night at like 6 o'clock or something.
Does it need to be a
5
public
o'clock.
meeting or something we could do during the day? Give them in the afternoon or something?
If we were deliberating, it would need to be an open meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I have a vacation coming up, so just bounce it by me. I'll tell you what it is, I just don't know. I actually don't know right now, but it's in the next week or so.
Yeah,
But we'll get it set up.
okay, so am I narrowing or?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna go Sonic's Road Garden and then Prudential,
Okay,
and through it all right together. Alright. Alright, number C, approval for fire station changes. I threw a handout. Oh, thank you, John, you did throw it down. So, what you're looking at, the top sheet is the changes inside the fire hall. That totals 89,700. The next page is MSP side, $24,000 and changes there. Like I say, when we are done, I am going to go to Rose.
okay,
I'm gonna go to Rose and Holly for that 24,000 plus some other changes that we'd already made in there with the locker and stuff, and see if we can recoup some of that money. So this money was approved in the budget already, but we do need to approve this. There's also a schedule on the back, kind of give you where they're at in the time frame.
Do we have any graphical depiction of what this is, an amended drawing?
I don't have a great one, but I have that one.
So we
You've
didn't
got
have,
really good eyes.
initially, we didn't have, any interior finishes and stuff, so these items that are.
Yeah,
added is 'cause we didn't
pretty
have any
much,
of that
it was
in the
pretty
base-
much
in the base
open
finish.
in there. Yep.
Is this what, in our budget meetings, we sort of guesstimated at 400,000?
Yeah, but there's other stuff to go in there too.
Oh, so it's not just 89,700
No,
and
there's still the
24,000?
exhaust system for the trucks to put in there and some other stuff,
Okay,
but they're trying to get.
so with this,
Oh,
do you
you're
think
right.
that we're on par for 400,000,
I
or
think
are we gonna come in a
no,
little lower?
I think we're pretty close. Pretty close.
This fits what you guys were ballparking?
Yeah, we figured around 100 or so, and we're just a little over that, so.
Okay.
Not in bad shape. Not in bad shape. No, we made a pretty good guess.
So we're expecting others, Kevin, for generator, exhaust system.
Sign, yeah, things like that. You got it. So anyway, I will make a motion that we accept the, extra cost for the changes of 89,700 for the fire station and 24,000 for the MSP side, which would make what, a total of 113,700. What fund did we put that in, John?
I think we have it in the fire one,
Okay.
where it, I'll pull it out from where it's allocated at.
Are there ceilings in the main part of the building, not the garage space, but
Yeah.
outside of like the evidence locker and the holding cell?
Yeah, there are. I don't know
Was there
why.
originally?
Yeah, there was, but this sounds silly. On the, holding cells in like the evidence room and that, they didn't have a ceiling
Did
now.
not have a ceiling.
I don't know why.
Well,
You
it
said
sounds
something
like
about
what
they
they needed was a steel
They
plate.
had, well, they had chain link
Fence.
fence,
Oh, okay,
which is tough to keep heat in.
true.
So anyway, obviously they're putting the ceiling in, the steel plate in.
So is this a requirement from them?
I believe these things are just based on what I've done with state police in the past. They had specific things they need. IT rooms is pretty common that they've got, because that's pretty high security stuff. It does need its own heat, probably a split system where it's just cooling, basically. It shouldn't probably need any heat in there, but cooling for sure. The hard ceilings, yes, just because of our high ceilings in the building, they would need some.
And now will this be it then, for MSP?
That's why I say I'm gonna take that and, what was there, the locker boxes we bought?
Yeah,
We're gonna take that money, I'm gonna go to Holly and Rose and see if we can recoup them.
yeah.
Kevin, I don't know if you're capable of answering this regarding what I believe to be the ceiling on the holding cells.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe the bottom is OSB?
You mean as far as the ceiling itself? Yeah, it's gonna be OSB and then steel plated
Steel
on
plate
top.
will be the finish.
Yeah,
So I've never built something like this. I'm looking at you, Keith, in case you know.
Quarter inch is pretty thick.
It's combustible, that's what I'm
The
worried
wood, yes, but the top is gonna be wood anyway, but I don't think you would need it as a substrate for the steel. Or, I mean, the steel would span it, whatever it's gonna be on, 2x12s or whatever, 2x8s, would need to be heavier than that, but,
Yeah, I'm gonna trust the frame, I'm just worried about the combustibility.
yeah.
That caught me by surprise. And
But that wood, those 2x4s might need to be treated too, then, right? Were you worried about it falling?
I'm
out?
worried about both things. OSB is combustible to begin with. I don't know if it's separated by drywall or not. I would think the framing would be non-combustible, I think. Again, I don't know, I've never built one, I don't know what the drawings say. The other component too, Kevin, only if you know, and John, only if you know it, is Barry suggesting that the block separating walls are new to this proposal? It says all block walls in rooms, kind of, what it says.
I think it just means that's the finish.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
block.
okay,
that's the finish.
yeah, because I thought that was,
Adding a
detailed on
ceiling.
the drawings.
Yeah, adding the
Block,
ceiling.
no drywall or anything on the
Yeah,
walls.
I got it, thanks, okay. Okay, I'm happy now, kind of. I just questioned that he might be doing something wrong,
Sure.
as an observer, maybe,
I'll ask Mike when I see him.
okay? Well, I'm good.
You good?
You get a second?
I don't believe so. Are you second? You want me to remake the motion? So I make a motion that we accept the changes, the 89,700 and the 24,000 on the MSP side.
I'll second.
Laura, you wanna take a roll call, please?
Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Wiederhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin,
Yes.
Janelle Keller.
Yes.
Kevin, I got something else.
No, go ahead, Jim.
How are we executing this change? Meaning, are we gonna have, is this our scope of work? Is it added, is there gonna be a contract associated with the execution of this?
I'm meeting with Mike, and Barry to go over that to get a better scope, and then we're gonna go from there, but I've told Mike, I wanna have like a weekly meeting out there, so that we can keep track of where we're at on the inside.
Mike's the LNG guy.
We're taking a lot on faith, there's
Yep.
utterly no specificity in what we're getting to. And
To your point, Jim, about the wood, if it should, and I don't know if there's a different document, if somebody had a more detailed breakdown of
Yep.
what they submitted, but to tell us what, are these 2x8s fire treated? OSB is not fire treated, but, just because that's what's holding that steel up, and if there is a fire up there, the steel's gonna fall down.
No problem. I'll check on that, Keith, when we meet with him.
Not that you guys wouldn't put it out since you're in the same building.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Depends on who's in there.
If you smell smoke, do something, John. Jim, when I go, I'll take you with me.
that's great. And listen, I mean, it's almost, my opinion is, because this is written, there's equally amount of trust on Barry's part.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with all of this.
Sure.
I just would like to see some more specifics.
No
But
problem.
I'm good with the edited change.
Good. Michigan Outdoor Services. So we got 2 estimates?
Nope,
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that one?
just one. So this is who we've had. This is who we've used for quite a few years now. It has increased by $20 since last year. I honestly probably would have put it up in the consent agenda, but I didn't know how everybody felt about Michigan Outdoor Services. So, yeah, it's $20 more. They take care of, just for everybody's information, they take care of this property, but then also the cemetery properties as well.
like the lawn care and stuff. So there's a, spring cleanup, fall cleanup, regular cutting. That's about it.
Who's doing now, Michigan?
Yep, it's Michigan Outdoor Service, it's the same company that does it right now.
Have you had good luck with them?
I think the only thing that I have personally seen issues with, and they've been good to correct it when we've drawn attention to it, is the, Olive Branch Cemetery, the ditch. We have to remind them every once in a while to make sure that they're mowing the ditch.
Where's that one at now?
On East Tower
It's on
Road?
East Holly. So, I mean, he's been great to work with, I will say that, in those instances, you know, he's not the one coming out on his lawnmower, he has a team. So when I call him up, he is pretty good about rectifying situations. We did have, last year, they did some work outside, oh, hey, we need some more, you know, mulch spread or whatever it may have been, and they did come out and fix it, but, anyway, I have not had an issue with them, but if anyone has anything to say, not be great time to go. Okay, all right, then I would make a motion that we go ahead and continue working with Michigan Outdoor Service for the 2025 season, for a cost of $18.15.
I'll second that. Laura, you wanna take roll call?
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Peterhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills.
Yes.
All right, so the next one here, I know you're uncomfortable with. I brought up last meeting, talking about increasing our clerk's pay, as she sits here. I think I mentioned to all of you. So there was 102, I believe, I'll pass it down. Townships that didn't even have a clerk run last time. And after I talked to a couple of them at MTA, that is something I hope we never have to deal with. That being said, I think Janelle does a lot more than what she's required to. There's a list here where Janelle's listed some of her additional responsibilities. With all the added weight she's had with the elections, which I realize is statutory, I still did a lot to try to figure out where we're at pay-wise, the Janelle file. I think we're investing in the future of our township. And I mean that sincerely. I would hate to come to a point where we didn't have a clerk or have anybody that wanted to do this position. I think Janelle does it. She does it very well. So what I came up with is I'd like to do a stipend for Janelle. I came up with a number of $100 a week, which would be $5,200 a year. The one thing this board not only would have to decide about the stipend is whether we would make it pension effective. If we do that, it's gonna be roughly another $600 per year. If we decide not to do it affecting the pension, then it would just be the $5,200. I'm proposing we do that. I totally think we can review this next year at the budget. If at that point we wanted to change something, make some of it more salary, we could do that. My thing right now with doing it as a stipend, heaven forbid, if Janelle got hit by a bus tonight pulling out of here, the next person that takes her seat, we're only responsible for their salary. We're not responsible for this stipend. That stipend would be tied directly to her. That's the reason I went with a stipend for now. But I'm open to anybody else's thoughts, considerations. Jim?
I'm 100% behind.
Teresa?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I did have one question though. I looked at all this stuff and I don't see anything on, I'm still a little bit like unsure of the website maintenance and some other functions that the cable manager used to do.
Yeah,
And since
and
we,
as an office staff, we need to address that. I do agree. And that being said, last month's board, I did think I would come to you this week with something for communications with the residents. I say this jokingly, but sincerely mean it. When I went to the township conference, I thought I knew what I was gonna bring to the board, except I found two more over there that I actually like better than the ones that I priced. So I'm hoping next month we can bring that, but we're gonna tie some of the website and stuff into that. So, is a board,
Well, I was just gonna respond to that. I think probably what Teresa's referencing is whether it should be on there or not. And I have regularly, since I started here, even before being a clerk, contributed to our Facebook page and our website. So whether or not that was really under my scope of work, I have done that work.
well, that's why I was
Yeah,
halfway
I
expecting to
told
see it.
Kevin, I came up with what I could quickly. It's likely that I probably have missed quite a few things on there.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because it's, I mean, there's money allocated for that type of work.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
it's completely easy to say, we can take that pot of money and apply it towards this stipend.
Sure.
If that's some of the things, and that's why I expected to see that on the list,
Yeah.
because I do know that you, have been, you know, involved in the maintenance of the website, and especially posting of the Facebook stuff, so, you know, someone's
Could we
gonna
take
have
that
to.
out of our PEG funds then?
Well, I think since, you know, we have stuff allocated for
Sure.
something, the PEG funds that, you know, the $6,000 is still sitting there for a position that main responsibilities would be, you know, the website, things like that. And I'm not saying that, you know, I expect that Janelle's gonna pick up even more of that, but
Yeah.
the things that she already does do overlap with that, so.
Yeah, maybe it would be a good start to.
First step though, do you guys wanna make it pension effective or not? Like I say, it's about $600.
Our deputy, is the deputy pays, pension effective? Pension effective. How
The
to
$50 a month?
Yes.
No.
So those are stipends.
Yep.
Should we be consistent with stipends?
We can be, for sure, that's what I'm asking.
Then I think to be on the safe side, we should be consistent with the stipends. And if one of them, if the other two are not pension affecting, then it wouldn't seem fair to make the other one pension affecting.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that? So where do you wanna take the $5,200 from? Take it out of the PEG funds?
That, some of it, I mean,
I'm just looking for your- Can I figure that out, or do we have to name that? Probably need to name it, don't we? I mean, we have money in capital outlay reserve. We may be using some of the other money for whatever we decide for our community outreach.
Yeah, I mean, we always have the opportunity to pull from our funds, right, if we needed something extra, but this is your call. I'm just sitting here today.
well, where do we take the rest of the salaries from?
What do you mean?
Where's salary money come from? Just
Like the GL
general
number?
general operating
Yeah.
costs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take it out. I'm gonna make the motion then. I propose we make a stipend for Janelle $5,200 a year, $100 a week. You probably should start a new GL line for that.
Yeah.
And for now, I say we take the money out of the capital outlet reserve. That's my motion. So, yeah, Keith supports. You wanna take a roll call on that, Laura?
Keith Weiderhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Abstain?
okay, Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Shredding services and shred day?
So, some of this is just informational. So we have used Extreme Shreds in the past. 2 years ago, it was $275 for for a 1 hour period in 2023. So they are available if we wanted to do like May 21. It's a Wednesday. We're thinking of shred day on a Wednesday from like 4 to 6. There's information here in the packet though. If we decided, and I really have no idea, you know, what your thoughts were, but I wanted to just kind of get some information, so thanks to Laura for kind of pulling this together. There's also an opportunity for us to just have a shred bin here, where if we have, like for example, if Teresa had tax files that needed to be shredded, instead of having to wait for a shred day, she just puts them in the pile, and then they come, and we can schedule that if we want it to be quarterly, if we want it to be, you know, every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you can kind of see what these three offer. So, not necessarily something, this is more a piece of information for us, if this is a way that we would like to move in the future. So, let's say for example, I'm just using Extreme Shreds because that's the one we've used before. Quarterly, $65, what is that? $320 for the year, 4 pickup days, compared to our $275 for 1 hour. So just something for us to consider. I know that may not be as available for the community, you know, I know right now we do the shred day for the community, but I think in 2023 we might have only had two residents come. Do you remember, Teresa? It was not very many. It was only a couple people, so.
Maybe like 5, but yeah.
Maybe, just, it was not very many. So, I mean, obviously, if it's something that we wanna do for the community and continue to do, not a big deal, we can continue to do it. But from a pricing standpoint, convenience, I wanted to make sure we had that information, so thank you again, Laura, for pulling that together. Do you guys have any specific thoughts on that?
Where does the bin live in the meantime when?
We don't have a bin, so what
I
they.
mean, if we do that, if we got the bin and they do it the quarterly, then we got a bin full of stuff we wanted to shred that's just laying there waiting.
And it's locked.
It's
Yep,
locked,
it's a
okay.
locked bin, it's secured, they come right on site to do the shredding. So everything, you know, it's not like we don't have any papers floating around that shouldn't be.
Well, that wouldn't be located outside the building.
No,
That would be
inside,
inside.
yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah, no, it's inside. That's why I was saying it is not as user friendly for residents
They would
because,
have to come during business hours and put it in.
yeah. Which I don't know that we would see regularly, but
You might get more.
Oh, if they knew that there was a bin here at
That's
all
what I'm
times
saying.
and they could just come in and put their stuff in that bin,
Yeah, you might get more.
yeah, you never know.
self-service shred, we have a couple.
Well, we have some shredders, right? I mean, yeah, some people might want to come in and do their own shredding. But, so are you proposing that we do a shred day like May 21st?
I
And
think
that
that
way
we
you
should
think-
do the shred day, we haven't had it in 2 years.
Mhm.
I know we have had community members who've asked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we have a couple of different options. I know that Extreme Shreds is available on May 21st. It sounds like the other companies were also available. You can see the cost here, that electrocycle is $300 per hour. The one thing that I thought was interesting is that Extreme Shreds gave us a quote for $200 to $250 an hour. But they charged us $275 back in 2023, so I'm not sure if that changes. So I would propose that we go ahead and just do that Extreme Shreds this year, May 21st. That would be what I would have scheduled, but if you guys are interested in more, we can certainly look into it. If you think that that'd be a service that we want to have here in the office. But again, that was informational, just informational, so I guess my motion right now would be May 21st, our shred day, from 4 to 6 p.m. with Extreme Shreds.
And that's at a cost of $275?
That is, $275 is what they gave us before. It's probably gonna be about $250 an hour is what they gave us. But $275 is what they charged for 1 hour in 2023, which is what I thought was interesting.
Oh, because they had to travel here.
Maybe.
So you're saying that it would be, you wanna do it for 2 hours or just 1 hour?
I think the 2-hour window is nice for the community, but we could just do an hour. Hour's worth of shredding, how's that? May 21st, hour's worth of shredding from
5 o'clock to
5
6 o'clock? Or 5:30 to 6:30?
5 to 6. Sound good?
For $275.
I would say allow up to $500. I don't think we're gonna need it, but I would have scheduled that without board's approval anyway. It was under 1,000, so.
That's your motion, support?
I'll support it.
Or do you want to take a roll call?
Kevin Scramlin,
Yep.
Chanel Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Weiderhold.
Yes.
And are you interested in us considering something like this for down the road?
For the Ben, yeah.
For the bed?
Fine.
Yeah,
Let's
why
get some
not?
information on it.
Okay.
I mean, even the electrocycle or whoever, it's still very, very cost comparative and, yeah, and they come out here 4 times and that's a 97-gallon bin, which is the same size as that garbage can out there.
Yeah, check these out and, let me know if you have questions. I can bring any answers to the next board meeting.
All right, next one is painting the basement. Laura was nice enough to make us a spreadsheet. Do you know, you got any comments on these? You did some of them?
Yeah, so Laura did a lot of the research on the painters. I mean, I met with a couple of them when they were in here. You'll see that these are all kind of priced out, so we did allocate some monies toward doing the basement. If you recall, we took out a lot of old storage units, so that we needed some patching and painting in the basement. When we were down there with them, we did ask, you know what, could you go ahead and just give us estimates for the stairway and the other side of the basement? So this is up to the board what you want to do, but it would make everything the same color instead of the lovely mint green that is in the basement right now. So all of those are provided. JR is who did our paint job the last time. Everyone was very pleasant. Obviously that Buell's painting, Buell, is the least expensive. I do think, remind me, Laura, did the Dynamics include the painting of the trim? Oh, that's okay, I just thought you might remember off the top of your head.
No, there was a
because
lot of
we had
pricing
talked
and
about, the trim downstairs is similar to what we have in here, this kind of like rubber. And there are a couple of areas that we'll probably have to replace.
Paint all doors, casing, and semi-gloss white. What was the
But
other
nothing
one?
about the trim, what does it say?
About the trim?
Did it say anything about the trim? I didn't see it.
No.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, everybody was wonderful,
Oh.
I think.
No, that was the stairwell, had paint all trim and stairwell, that was just the
In the
hand
stairwell,
railing
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
So again, we have a decent history with JRs. All of them are insured and have their own labor, or their own materials, of course, that they're bringing. So my first question for you would be, are we interested in doing all of the rooms or just the room that we vote in?
I'd say, well, they're here, if you're gonna do it, might as well do it.
These quotes are for both sides of the basement and the stairwell.
So we asked them as best as they could to kind of a la carte it for us, so you can see what it includes. So for example, Dynamics, basement, back room, stairway.
Oh, I see, so here on your chart, you've got polling area, so that's basically what you need painted.
Correct.
And the rest are all
Optional.
in addition.
I like painting the whole thing.
I do
I
too.
do too.
Yeah, I think it's, if they're here, do it.
Yeah, easy. Is there preferred colors of color?
all probably quite good and reputable. I know JR's Creative Painting, they have a whole entire crew, like, they'll come in here and I bet they'll get it all done in 1 weekend. I don't know if the rest of these guys said how long they would take, but.
Actually, nobody said how long it was gonna take.
As long as they do it before November.
JR's who we used before, and everybody was happy with them.
Yes, but you guys met with each of them, did you have a sense of, you know, anything? Was there anything that, you know, made you think to yourself, yeah, we should go with this one, or we shouldn't go with this one?
Did you have any gut instincts? I mean, they were all very, very pleasant. Yeah, no.
You guys make your decision.
No, I'm just asking your opinion. Did you have any instincts?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one that I definitely liked more than the others.
Right.
Okay, who is it?
I don't like being in this position.
And talk to John, but just talk loud enough we can.
That's all right.
We won't put you on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, you are familiar with Buell's, somewhat familiar with JR's. I've never used anyone
I
personally.
mean, I've heard,
Who's-
Buell's have been around forever, is all I can tell you. I mean, what's it say here, 1970 something, I can't read it. They've been
It's
in
79.
79.
I mean, I'd be willing to give them a try, I just, you know, last time we picked the lowest bidder, we got half the building
I
cost.
did think about that. I did think about that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they're almost, what, $1,800 cheaper?
So when JR did the work before, was there any, they moved things out of their way, they do all the prep, they do all that stuff, cause
Yeah,
Keith's not gonna do it, so if they do furniture move, I'm not gonna do it, they
Right.
need to do that, so they gotta.
yeah, they did,
Yeah.
they moved
We
things
had
to the
experience with
center.
them and that was, we're good.
They had to cover all this stuff, they did. I mean, if you look at the job, the polling area, JR's Creative Painting and Buell Painting were the two lowest bids, and actually Buell's was more expensive than JR's, but overall, Buell's was the cheapest for everything.
Yeah.
But he's, you know, is Buell's the one who said, don't paint the rubber trim?
It shouldn't be.
Do the rest of them have painting the rubber trim on their list?
I think Dynamics was the only one that supported the painting of it, that said, oh yeah, there's a product
Yeah,
that
that's
works.
true.
The rest of them were like,
All
no.
three were like, no.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
recommend this be painted, it'll peel off, problems.
Right?
Vacuum cleaner will scratch it and, yeah.
If this is helpful, I would be in support of everything I was saying, to accept the second low bid if the first low bid, if you're trying to qualify to make sure everything's there and find out that it isn't and want to move the project along, that I'd be okay with going second low bid if you found that the first low bid missed something and had to put their price higher than whatever threshold you guys determine. If that'll help to move it along so we're not waiting another month.
Yeah, I don't wanna wait another month. In my opinion, I mean, hey, we don't have to go with the cheapest. If everybody was happy with JR, I think they're right in line with what we had budgeted, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I'm okay with either decision.
I
Yeah,
would
I'm
make,
okay with either two.
I would make a motion that we, use JR Creative Painting, and that we do the whole project for $5,540.
I'll second that.
Lori, you wanna do a roll call, please?
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Wiederhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramble.
Yes. All right, last item, Janelle, you had some HR stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so as you know, this policy manual has been a lovely work in progress. First things first, we need to clarify something as a board. I spoke with Ecto, who is our HR professional that we utilize. Regarding, so if you look at page 38 that you have here in front of you, so our current policy right now is in front of you. A couple things that are contradictory. So some of the language says you need to, it indicates that you need to wait for a year. Some says 6 months. So we need to clarify that. Also, as you can see here, so if you wait until your first year, if you look at that first column, that says you have to have completed a year. So this column currently indicates that you need to have completed a year before your first vacation days. And then we get to these next two, we have 2 to 5 years and 5 to 15 years. So when I spoke with her about this, she indicated that it is not clear. Do you get it after the completion of your 5th year, when you're in your 6th year? So we need to clarify that, and we need to do that tonight, because we currently have an employee who has completed her 5th year, and we are about to have a second employee who will be completing her 5th year, and we need to clarify if she is eligible for 12 days or not. We also probably need to determine what our future policy, what you want this to look like. I can certainly make a bunch of changes, but the reality is the board needs to be deciding some of these things. So, first question is, how do we want to have this phrased? And second, are we going to honor those 12 days?
Well, if you look at this, it says also 5 to 15 years and then 15 or more years.
Exactly, so the language is not clear.
How is it interpreted now? So length of service, so a person who's less than a year doesn't get any paid days, or they would start to accrue those
So you start to accrue immediately.
in the first year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You have to work for a year first. You get no paid vacation days until you've worked here 1 whole year. So that if you haven't worked here for a year, you get 0 paid vacation days.
Now, with the Sick Time Act, they are earning sick time immediately, that's day 1. You don't get to pick that or not. So, whether we keep that or not, it's up to the board, but we do need to figure out the rest of it. So, where do you wanna take it?
So, you're asking us in the second row from 2 to 5, and then if there's any logic, it shows through row 3 would be 6 to 15.
Correct. Logically, you would look at this and that is how maybe it would be explained, or, 5 years, 364 days, or something along those lines. Because right now, are you in the when are you in that 5-year range? Yeah. Can you see how it's conflicting?
I do know,
Yeah, and it's hard to implement when you're working with employees. In our HR professional read it and she felt like, this is probably a mess and you need to fix it.
And this was approved in the
2019.
end of 2019.
What was the recommendation of the HR professional?
She said to take it to the board and figure out what they want to do. So here I am.
Same problem exists in the fire department chart as well.
So, I don't know, my mind goes to, if the Sick Time Act calls for day 1, you start accruing hours. I would feel like a person hired in would start accruing their vacation hours even in their first year here. I don't know why they have to wait.
Well, I will tell you, she felt like that is not common anymore to have to wait for a year for vacation.
Right. The accruing part I get, I see that a lot with it. You're just hired on in January, you're not taking 2 weeks off because,
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the employer too, though. Some people would allow it, but you're just in a deficit for your off.
And if we could just get some general parameters, she said she'd be willing to draft up a couple of different policies to bring back so that we can look at some others. We approved that sick time, the new sick time policy, but we technically could change it again if we wanted to lump everything together.
We can't, the sick time policy does not work for a full-time firefighter. Because the 72 hours, when we work 24-hour shifts, so you can be sick a day and a half for the year and then you're done.
Well, we have separate
Versus-
policies for fire and township.
Well, it's rolled in on the employee handbook under the same.
No, they're separated, your vacation is separated.
Your vacation is, but the
Yeah.
sick time. So our full-time fire personnel can't adhere to the 72-hour maximum time.
You lost me, John.
So when we spoke previously, a couple months ago about it, when it was a blanket statement for the 72-hour maximum that we were gonna allow them
Oh,
to take off.
yeah.
Yeah, it would work for 40-hour-a-week people and the fill-in personnel, but it doesn't work for a full-time person that works.
So this, you're talking about the
56 hours a
72
week.
hours that they would have earned?
Right.
So
It's-
the 1 hour
that's
for 30
insufficient
up to
for
72?
a full-time fire person.
The amount of sick time that we're providing, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
In the sick time act that we approved, you're saying that is not sufficient?
correct.
Okay,
So it's calculated, so if you work 40 hours, that's a week and a half, almost 2 weeks on a 72 hours,
yeah,
right? Versus if it was a fire person, it would be half a week
okay,
that they would be able to be sick.
okay. Yeah, so if you have some, ideas for how you want that language in here to be, let me know and I can have her draft up some policies for us as well.
Okay.
Cause I do think that's still gonna have to be different than what we do for the township since we have much
Mhm.
different hours.
On this one, Janelle, I mean, obviously, you got 2 to 5, I think they need to change it from 6 to 15. I will say with the employees that we have that had been under this, I don't think it's right to go back to them and cut their days.
I do think that it would be, probably not wise to modify that.
Well, I don't think that's fair.
I agree. I would not be.
So I think we need to honor that. But moving forward, we need to change this from 6 to 15 years.
Well, so who's that gonna affect?
So the question would still be, if we are operating under this, as if you had to complete 1 year for 4 days, are we then saying, I'd have to calculate where we're at? Either way, I guess, and I can do this like in my office, I suppose, but we're saying up to 5 years, 364 days, you get 8 days for the year, correct?
Correct.
And then from your beginning of year 6 through.
Moving forward,
Okay.
yes.
And for our current employees,
Well, my only thing is with our employees now, is they hired in with this handbook, whether it was right or wrong. This was the handbook they were presented.
it is, the board does have the option, and we do have it in here, that this can be modified. Just something to think about. I'm not saying we need to do that, but it is specifically written that this is not a contract for them, just so that we are all on the same page there. I do think, and I agree with you, especially we have, some people who are right at this time, I don't know that would be fair to not permit those 12 days.
I agree. Like I say, going forward, I think it needs to be changed, but I think we need to honor what's been there,
Okay.
which was approved by the previous boards, obviously. Keith, your thoughts?
Not having read the whole handbook, I just interpreted it a little bit differently, but if this is the way it's always been interpreted, then I'll respect that. I just see it a little differently, maybe like up to, for the second line, 2 to 5, up to 5, my end of my 5th year, I get 8 days, on 5 years and 1 day, I would look at 12 days. That's how I would see it, but
Yeah.
in my 6th year, but if we're starting after the 1st year, which that just seems odd to me, but that's how it is, and that, what Teresa was explaining to me, that if it's after the 1st year, then it's after my 2nd year, then after my 5th year.
It kind of works when you say it that way. 1 day after 5 years, you're entitled to 12 days.
So 5 years plus 1 day. That's kind of where we're thinking with that
Well,
6 to
start your
15.
6th year.
That's how I see it, I could be way off.
And leaving it as wait for 1 year for vacation?
I think if we're gonna change it, somebody hires in, they can start accruing vacation time immediately. It's the
By a month?
2.6
Yeah,
hours
by
per
month.
Okay.
month they would accrue. I think I would say to start that in the first year.
So upon date of hire.
Cause your sick days now under the law are gonna start accruing then.
Sick days they automatically get, yeah, so they'll accrue right away.
Just for simplicity, I would try to model that, maybe make it similar to that, how those are accrued.
So. Okay. So we are saying, I just need to make sure, so for, once you are over 5 years and 1 day is when we would move into the 12 days, correct?
Correct.
Is that what we're saying? Okay. So then it would be 15 years plus 1 day?
Yeah.
I think we need to probably keep in mind that this was all written pre-Earned Sick Time Act.
Sure.
And with Earned Sick Time Act, people are gonna be able to carry over unused sick time.
But they're only gonna be able to use a maximum of 72 hours. So it's, what is it, the maximum, what's the sick time days we get now?
It was about 5 and 2. So between personal and sick, it
So-
was,
It's really not gonna affect the amount of time you're gonna be able to take off on your vacation days. Or what the cost of the package. It's actually gonna be less.
so the other thing that is a possibility, and this is what I had started to mention, we did just change this policy, but if it is more beneficial for us to lump vacation into the Sick Time Act and have everything together, then we can. We just need to determine the problem, I don't know if it's a problem, all hours then would roll over. So with the new law for Sick Time Act, everything would roll over whatever they didn't use. Now, they still will only be able to use 72 hours a year from that sick time. And then we also would just need to clarify if vacation is paid out. So currently our manual states, like if you were to retire, it's not, or it doesn't get paid out, but then if you are terminated, it does. There's something really wonky like that. So, that would be an option too, if you wanted her to draft up some type of policy for that, where everything was just together.
That's a good option too. I know a lot of people do. My daughter works at a hospital and they just have PTO. It's all, whether it's sick, vacation, or what, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Aren't we just pushing our liability down the road though financially?
What do you mean?
I mean, if we start letting them roll stuff over, then aren't we responsible on the other end of that? Instead of now where they can't?
No, because they can only use up to 72 hours a year.
Oh, I guess, okay.
So even if they rolled over 10 vacation days, they can only still use 72 hours of it for sick time.
I guess. Well, then why don't you have it right, the proposal both ways?
Okay.
It'll give us
So,
options.
I don't know, that part kinda scares me, cause you take a 2-week vacation and then right in the
Right.
middle of it, you get sick.
But the reality
And
is
then
right
use
now,
it.
the Sick Time Act, they could do it too.
I had a guy.
The Sick Time Act right now, they could do that as well.
No, you have the option right now under policy manual to approve it as sick time or not during your vacation time.
We can't approve sick time anymore.
Vacation time,
Oh, right.
not sick time.
Correct.
So you could switch it over. You have the ability to, or you could
Correct.
say, no, you're gonna use your sick time, or use your vacation time, cause that's what you took it as.
Yeah. On the flip side, we could tell somebody no for vacation and then they use a sick day.
Yeah, but you have the option to tell them, no, you can't use your vacation.
It's true.
If it doesn't fall within the parameters of staffing,
Mm-hmm.
so.
It's true. So, we'll get both policies. As far as your, like, fire department, let me know how you want that to look for your end, cause that
Okay.
certainly either way is gonna have to look different than, you know, what we have. And I can certainly see if she has a policy that she thinks would fit both. I guess probably not though. Couple other things, just since I am working with her. Right now, we have a 90-day wait period for benefits. The language right now says that you have to be continuously employed to receive benefits. We have had many people over the years who have been continuously employed as part-time workers or employees. But it is not clear whether they should be eligible immediately for benefits or do they need to wait that 90-day period. So I just would like some clarification on that. I can certainly tell you what I've been doing, but it doesn't mean it's accurate.
You can share what's been done to others of us, but.
Yeah, so not everybody in this room has received all the same treatment. Some people have waited, even after being part-time, still had to wait the 90 days. There are other people in this room who immediately, because they had worked for many months for Groveland Township, received the benefits right away. When I asked the HR representative, you know, what her recommendation was, she did say, because our policy does not specify, and I asked her, what should I be doing here? She said, her recommendation would be to honor that employee, right? They have given you the commitment of being employed there for many months. I have been doing that, but it's not in our policy, and I know that hasn't always been the case. So, what would you like to see?
I would think that if they've already been here 90 days and then they went full-time, then they should be able to start right away.
Okay, do you have any thoughts on that? Just because I know your 90 days might look different than our 90 days.
No, I 100% agree with that.
Okay. Comp time for fire department. You have a requirement right now in the policy manual that it has to be used within 30 days or it's gone.
Yes.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I do have her looking into whether or not that is legal.
Yeah, it's not legal because you suffered.
Right.
So you cannot force them to work and not be paid for it.
Yeah, yeah. if
But you can say there's absolutely no overtime and pay them for it. It's, or, comp time.
And pay them the
And
overtime.
you will get
Yeah.
paid.
So that's another section, if you have some opinions on, let me know, cause she is kind of checking into that. Right now, my recommendation would be that we have a policy that is, updated for our training pay for trustees. If you remember last month, you approved some training pay. We don't have anything right now we just have a per meeting pay. But we've had a lot of trustees who've gone to trainings. Do we pay the hourly rate? Or do we pay something else?
What's the hourly rate?
Well, we don't have an hourly rate for the trustees, it's a meeting rate, I think I did say hourly, but their meeting rate is about $260 for a
Yep.
meeting.
Okay.
So that's a pretty significant number if you're going to like an hour-long training or a couple hours, but maybe that's what the board wants to do. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, my thought in just discussing this with her was that maybe we need something to say, for training purposes, a pre-approved paid training and the pay rate determined by the board. Would you be comfortable with that? Or, I mean, obviously trustees are like, yeah, give me all the things, but that would be fine too, but it would be nice to have some guidance because I was not sure how to handle that situation last month.
Yeah.
It was requested and it seemed like it was valid.
Yeah. I think it's valid, but yeah,
So maybe draft something like that,
yeah, I agree.
okay? The last thing HR related is that merit-based system that we had talked about in the budget meeting. What direction are we taking with that? I know, I mean, we've kind of chit-chatted about it here and there. I will tell you, the HR representative did tell me that it needs to be very, very, what were the words she used? Let me find them. I lied. Oh, strict parameters. She felt like that could be a situation that employees could easily take advantage of, so just to be mindful of that. So,
Well, obviously, we need to come up with a draft of some type to give her. And hopefully she could put us in line from there.
And if it isn't really, as feasible as, we had originally thought, then perhaps it's not something that we should really pursue going forward. Only because we don't wanna create a bigger, we don't wanna create a problem when, by doing something we think we're doing right, if it can be easily taken advantage of, that's not what we're setting out to do.
Yeah, I think we come up with a draft and give it to them and see what they say.
give it to HR?
HR, yeah.
Well, they're gonna tell me to bring it back to you.
No, but I'm saying she might be able to tune it up for us.
Okay.
See what
Give
she
it
comes
some
up with.
guidance.
I think she was gonna look into it. She's meeting with her team tomorrow, so she's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
see what they
definitely
did.
worth doing,
Yeah.
and then we can see what,
See where we're at.
where we're at with it from there.
No, sorry, I should go.
No, go ahead, Jim.
What did we do in the condition from an employee that's a new hire that has not been part-time? What did we determine for benefits? Is it a waiting period of 30, 60, 90?
90, right now we have 90 days.
Okay,
So a brand new employee, 90 days.
were we to talk about that?
You can.
I think 90 is a little far out there.
Okay.
I haven't hired in years, so it's not a good parameter on this. I have to look at, shit, you're the only, pardon my French, you're the only one that doesn't work here. I gotta believe 30 days is the norm. If you work somewhere after 30 days, you get the benefits.
You could ask the HR
I
lady.
mean, I really don't know.
I
It's
don't
just
know
that,
either.
I don't know if it's standard, like a 30-day across the board, but with the labor market the way that it is, I think it'd be, if you want to attract people, then it's something you would,
I'll ask around too.
something
I
you want
really
to give
don't
them right away.
know. But I would think 30 days would be the norm.
So just a heads up, so some of the things that we offer at that point would be like life insurance and stuff. Now, HRA, life insurance.
Ask what the norm is.
Pension.
Ask if there's, I know for Jacob, when he's hired at places, a lot of times it's been 60 days.
I'll ask her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm done there.
You're done? I'm good, cause I'll let you do that one too. OPEB?
Yeah, okay, so this one hopefully is just nice and sweet. OPEB, I just got this like yesterday, no, today at 11. Our auditors will be starting soon. If you recall, OPEB was what we had to wait on so long last year before we finally got our audit report. So, CBiz is who does it. This year, it's not a full report, it's like an interim review. And it is $2,000 for the interim review, and then, another $600 for whatever Public Act 202 stands for. And then there's a 6% technology fee. So, I would motion that we go ahead and utilize OPEB to complete our audit. If we agree with this today, then I can get this paperwork rolling and they can get started sooner rather than later, with Kevin Scramlin as our signer, and for myself to complete all paperwork associated.
I would support that, but you did say OPEB and you should have said CBiz.
Oh, well, yes,
Yeah,
CBiz.
so I would support that.
Laura, you wanna do a roll call, please?
Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Wiederhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin,
Yes.
Chanel Keller.
Yes.
Alright. There. Keep going, Janelle, monthly reports. Kaya?
Okay,
Haya. They are doing 50-50 drawings on Monday night at the Holly Moose. 50% of the profits go toward Haya. They also are having a spring cleanup day on May 3rd at Ganshaw Park. Ganshaw, am I saying that correct? I've never seen that. Is it Ganshaw? Ganshaw. Ganshaw. They are doing a Kroger card fundraiser, so this is when you have a Kroger account, you can actually allocate your benefits to go toward or different organizations. So Haya is an option if anybody would like, you know, your little piece of your purchase to go toward Haya. They are raising money for some 8th grade Washington DC trip donations. They have a team block party coming up on June 12th at Crapo Park. And then they will be moving their office at the end of the school year. I do have their annual report from last year that I just brought in. There's a lot of great highlights. Most of them I probably talked about in the meetings. But I do have that if anybody wants it. And then just the last thing here, I just wanted to, I'll probably set this out somewhere in the office, but it's just a resource for Michigan veterans. I know obviously they have a ton going on with the Veterans Association, but that is here as well. That's it, I'm good.
Teresa, Brandon Groveland?
BGYA, probably the Wojo's fundraiser is coming up May 31st and June 1st. They've got some focus groups for the proposed possible millage, no increase millage for the schools. Those are going to be April 21st and 22nd. They're virtual meetings. If you're interested, you can contact the superintendent's office. They have 4 applications for the opioid settlement mini grants. Youth Recognition Night is going to recognize 47 students in the district, and that will be next Thursday, the 24th. And Miss Fran is celebrating 50 years of being an employee of the Brandon Library. And so Miss Fran's open house, it's for Miss Fran. She's not putting it on. She's being in this open house at the Brandon Library on April 26th from 11 to 1, and the public is welcome.
Thank you. Jim, Planning Commission?
Not a lot to talk about. I continue to want to tell the board that I think our planner is the Terminator. She is way ahead of stuff. She's smart as can be, offers great suggestions. To that end, it was more an informational planning commission. We very briefly broached the issue if people are in arrears on fees. In addition, we talked about perhaps revised language on livestock in terms of quantity based upon area. And that was really about it. There wasn't anything earth shattering that I remember. I don't have my notes, but if there was, I would remember. That's all I have, Kevin.
All right. ZBA, Keith, you're getting off easy, aren't you?
Yeah, we haven't had any meetings.
All right.
But you got a train coming up
Do.
There you go.
Tuesday?
22nd?
Tuesday.
That'll be good. All right, supervisors report. I did get a letter. Holly has completed their master plan. If anybody's interested, they put the website on here. You can go on and look at it. We filed for appropriations through Lisa McLean's office. Thanks to Janelle for all the help there. You guys may, or I shouldn't say may, you should have from the Holly Police Department. Had a meeting with them, Rose, Holly, the village also. There's also a letter of support from Scott Roper with Holly Schools. I'm thinking next month Chief Narsh will be here to explain this better than I'm going to explain it to you. What they're asking for is some jurisdiction in our township, and it all goes to school resource officers. They're running into a problem basically when they're following up at things that either happen at school or on the bus. They're having to contact MSP, getting MSP involved. So they're trying to get some authority in Holly and Holly Township too. Holly Township, Rose Township, Groveland Township. I think it's a good thing. I'm not gonna kid you, I'm gonna have Will look at it to make sure. There's no contractual obligations for us. We're not paying for anything. But please read through it. And like I say, Holly is drafting a resolution and Chief Narsh, and I think Superintendent Roper will probably be there that night too. So please take your time and read that. Went to the MTA convention, which was great. A lot of information, a lot of networking. I did sit in on a class put on by Foster and Stern, the people that had the lawsuit against Bess, or I shouldn't say that, against the state with 233. So there's 40 lawyers involved in it now. So needless to say, his best guess, he said it will probably be months and months before it even, the court even says whether they're gonna hear it or not. Sewer meeting today. They're going to have a public meeting sometime in August. You'll all be notified, obviously, to lay out the final cost and things like that. Drake, our friends at the KOA campground, they did not comply. We did not get any plans from them, so we have filing a motion. I'm sure we'll end up back in court with them. Keith and I worked no-haz on Saturday. 1,122 cars is what we ended up with. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And Whitney that puts that on is unbelievable organization. I mean, she had it together. So that was cool. And one more thing is our beloved clerk completed her basic institute. So congratulations. There you go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Kevin, I got a question regarding the, what was the second to last thing you just said?
Sewer?
No hands?
No,
Drake,
say again?
the KOA.
Yes. Regarding the KOA, I would assume that makes them in default of whatever we agreed on. Does that mean we can say, you know, we're done? We're not gonna allow you what we granted you before now?
That's what we're asking for. We're asking them to fill it in,
Okay.
is where we're at is. That's the motion basically saying you failed, we're done, fill it in.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Parenthetically, regarding the best, out of nothing but silly good or odd luck,
sure.
Wednesday, I'm gonna go look at a building out of state for a company called X Energy. They are on the cusp, you guys are gonna love this, of modular nuclear power plants, small ones.
Love it.
And the notion is they have, I was told they have, I think he said an inexhaustible amount of private money. And that they feel within 5 years, there won't be best facilities.
What's the name of that company you're
X
saying?
Energy, if you look it up,
EX or just X?
X-Energy. They've got 8 heads, more than most universities. It's a who's who of particle physics, chemistry. I'm looking forward to this because I generally don't go out of town. I send somebody, but this one I want to see. And they tell me that it's similar to if Dave and I developed this. Once you've certified one, they're all built the same, so you don't need a separate permit and a separate set of drawings to review. They're all going to be the same, all going to be modular. And I, other than what's on their website, I'll know more. But that really buoyed my spirits, everybody. The guy says, it's gonna happen, we're gonna do it.
Good.
So,
Let's hope.
just thought I'd share that with the board.
You know?
I mentioned our auditors are gonna be coming in here, starting, I think it's next week, it's very soon. CDBG, I have been in communications, and it does look like we are going to be able to utilize those funds. Turnout gear was an example of something you could use it for, Jaws of Life, Knox boxes, so it needs to be fire department equipment.
Equipment, okay.
Cannot be toward the fire station, and it needs to be under 10,000, so it can be 9,000 and we use some funds, but anything over 10,000, we have to have multiple bids and go through like this bidding process through the county. So if you can kind of toss around some ideas, relatively quickly, maybe send them my way. just because I do have to fill out some paperwork indicating what we would use it for.
Okay.
So let me know. I think everybody's probably aware of this, but make sure you are real ID ready. That goes into effect May 7th, and then there's a possibility that, voting requirements could shift. You may have to prove citizenship and the next time you go to vote. I'll keep you updated on that. This is another group that has notified us they may be in the area over the summer, the Seventh-day Adventist group. I think the last board meeting I had Laura let you know about, there's another group I think they sell books. I think that was the group. The HRA, this is good for you to know, end of year forms. So for our full-time staff, for whatever is not used in their HRA, those forms are gonna go out tomorrow and they will be due by next Wednesday. So if we can get them all by next Wednesday, we can get that payroll sent out on Thursday for people who are taking the pay. In 2026, the state is doing they're doing an update for voting machines, so we may have to allocate some additional funds next year for new voting machines, which I have my opinions on that as well, yes, and I can see they're shared. But unfortunately, there is a possibility things could have to change, we may have to purchase them. On the other hand, we have been receiving quite a few reimbursements from the state for last year's elections, which is helpful because we spent a lot of money. I think that was, did you mention the Narcan thing?
No, I did not.
Just the last thing, and you probably already are familiar, I think David wrote about it in the paper as well. We have a couple of new Narcan boxes in the community, and unfortunately, I think it was countywide.
38 got hit.
38.
And you were one of them.
Yeah.
Girlfriend was one.
So they went around and hit all these boxes and cleaned them all out, and it's really sad for the community,
If
so.
I could, one of the issues,
Maybe.
one of the issues that came up with that is this security was cameras watching, this is what he told me, watching the boxes. They don't want security on those because of privacy.
So are those the ones they hit?
He wouldn't say. I didn't push it. I'm not gonna, I wanted to find who did it.
Yeah.
But they're worried too that somebody really may be needing those.
Yeah.
They took, and they will supply them for him. He was quite compassionate,
Yeah,
to talk to.
yeah.
Shame.
So they have restocked though, so we do have some here. I think that's.
That's it. Teresa?
Okay, so basically settlement is done. It was done late last month. All the tax collection money for 2024 was moved to both the township and the fire department for operating for this fiscal year. And I did complete the several unclaimed property claims. There's a bunch of unclaimed property listed on the State of Michigan Unclaimed Property website. There were several for Groveland Township and a couple for Groveland Fire. So we should be expecting back approximately $2,000 to $2,500 for Township and about $700 more for Fire. And the cybersecurity grant that I applied for back at the end of December, they bumped up the notification date yet another month. So even though I have no news, it still has not been denied because we have until the end of April for that. And so I've been looking at some cybersecurity upgrades. Kevin listened in and we talked to EC3, our current IT support, with what they would do for cybersecurity upgrades, and we're gonna pursue looking at several other companies as well, because cybersecurity I think is something we definitely need to increase our protections for, especially since one of our local municipalities in the surrounding area fell victim to somebody who managed to get millions of dollars from them. So, and it was just, they send out enough bait, someone's gonna catch it, right? And so we're looking into that, so that's pretty much it for 9:30 at night.
All right, I understand.
Yeah.
Public comment?
Yeah, sure. Just a really quick one. First off, you guys have a very extensive agenda and, maybe you need to have a second meeting in a month. But on the one side, I would say that it goes to, show that you guys are working on a lot of different things, which is appreciated. In our township, one of the things that I would request, and I heard it mentioned tonight, is your website could use some improvements in the user friendly. You shouldn't have to go to DOD and sign up to get notified. You should be able to just go to a website and find the information you want to obtain. So that would be a request that I would have. Another thing that I would state is the master plan and how it exists currently. Is that going to be being looked at soon? And if so, and nobody has to answer me at this moment, but I'd like to know if you are considering, like the last time there were residents that worked on that with some of the employees or trustees or whatever when y'all worked on it, and I'd like to know if that is gonna be again this year or the next time. So I guess I know it's a question, but I'd like to know, is the master plan gonna stay the way it is currently on your website, or are you gonna be updating it, and will the public be involved in that? And then because we were a little bit after 7, that West Nile prevention, when is that gonna be being done, if I might ask that? I'm sorry, because we missed.
So we just approved it, so we'll probably place the order in the next week.
And then it'll be done next month, this month?
Hopefully
May?
next month.
Alright, I was just curious about that. And will you guys put that on your website too, so that the public can know that? Okay, I appreciate that. And then, I think that's pretty much it, as far as requests. I know that Vesper's being worked on. I'm curious to see what that X-Energy modular is. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in that for sure. You know, you put me on a new task, so thanks.
Look at the website, the website is very cool.
Just what I needed. All right, I will. And it's the letter X dash energy, right? And where are they located?
If I remember right, I know Texas and I think Houston.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you for your comment, Carrie.
That's well done.
At this point.
Wait, real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Greg Smith, I read your thing. For the security cameras and stuff, questions, are upgrades with technology or versatility? That's my question. Wood ceilings for the OSB. I used to work for a major paint company for 42 years, so I've got a little bit of knowledge on painting, and I'll touch on that in a second too. Anyways, for the OSB for the ceilings, and I think you hit on it too, and the fire chief probably knows a little bit about this too, but I'm sure it's through the engineering or the drafts, whatever, they're gonna have a flame retardant coatings probably on it, which are very readily available, I would imagine, just like for steel in buildings. Same for the 2x8s and stuff like that. And for the Rover Cove base downstairs, I don't know what kind of condition it is. Painting it, no. Replace it first. Never works. 42 years. Vacation days, are half days available, or is it only going to be full days? Can you tie it in with the number of hours you work per week? Or per month, or whatever. The shred days public. Let's see, more thoughts, more things for y'all to think about, right?
Thanks for your comments, Eric.
Is that less than 3 minutes?
We did not take up an hour and a half.
Somebody?
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn and reopen with fire.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
John, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for hearing me tonight.
Bye, John, sorry, we're not listening.
Thanks.
Tina left
Good feel from the
some
board.
stuff on the counter for you.
Apparatus and equipment.
I started from
So we have brush tube has been converted back over to the brush unit. There were a couple repairs we had to make on it, and made them, and it's up and running now. We actually used it a couple times so far. It's extremely dry this spring. Tanker 1, the air operated shift valve to take it from road to pump, transfer it. It was leaking, the O-ring seals in it went bad, so we've ordered the parts and rebuilt it. We have to do it like every 4 years. It seems like it goes bad on that style switch. Engine 2, the air dryer was replaced. The air dryer dries out the air in the brake system, so it doesn't have moisture in it and freezing in the winter. It's again, needs to be replaced every probably 6 years. I think they've been doing it on them. Alpha 3 front end had an alignment, tires were rotated, and the graphics company is supposed to be coming out to replace some of the peeling vinyl that was on it. The engine turn shiny stuff that's on there is extremely brittle, and it was peeling off. So they said they'd warranty it and come out and do it. Engine 3, we had to replace the batteries on them. We're in the process of collecting all the radios and removing the markings on them to take the repo Casper auction, as we discussed in the last meeting. Currently in the process of removing the lettering from the cars to take the repo cast as well, and all the lights and radios out of them. It's pretty intricate to take all the wiring out. Justin's been working on that. We settled up the bill with Apollo for the repair of ladder 1 that had gone on for so long, and we agreed to split the cost of the labor in half. Reduced it by $2,500, and after that we had it certified a little bit early just to alleviate the possibility of it happening again where it went so far.
Sure.
Because it was 6 months, almost 7 months by the time we had it tested on its annual schedule, and there was some question there, so. We had it tested and it passed. The apparatus preventative maintenance and DOT inspections are scheduled for the fire trucks. I believe it was in 2 that went in, and it had the oil changed and the DOT performed on it. MES performed the maintenance on the air trailer, and they found a couple of the check valves were bad on it, so I'm waiting for a quote from them to replace those so they can finish getting that in service. We also replaced all the batteries in the Lucas portable suction units. They were 4 years old, and there was a couple of them that the runtime was less than 5 minutes. But you never know it because you turn it on and you run it and you turn it back off as soon as you do it. But you know, for an extended CPR time that you need it, that would lead into some issues. Replaced 10 glucometers. They discontinued the units and the strips that we were previously using, so that would replace all the glucometers on the trucks and our T-kits for the Renaissance. As far as personnel, Justin Moroz is currently attending his Fire Officer 1 class and is scheduled to test on May 5th, and then he'll be done with that. Abigail Kemsky, that we hired last month, has finished all her 3rd rides, and she's currently working shifts, and she's doing quite well. She's getting along well with everybody and seems to be quite able to perform anything that's been asked of her so far. Caleb Fairless finished his firefighter class on Sunday, was his last day of hazmat, and he's waiting to take his state test on May 1st. Jordan Accord has 1 month left in his firefighter class, and then he'll be done. And then I would like to request to hire Andre Willis for the position of firefighter medic fill-in pursuant to his background check. He's currently a full-time fire medic on Springfield. And, he's a good guy, huge guy. He's an extremely good medic.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we hire Andre Willis for a position of fill-in firefighter medic pursuant to his background check.
I'll support that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, roll call. I apologize, Lauren.
It's okay. Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Keith Weiderhold,
Yes.
Kevin Scramlin,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills.
Yes.
Okay, and in the packet, I have two reimbursement agreements to send employees to school. I request your input on it or possible adoption for it. There's one that is primarily set up as a time reimbursement, and the other one is kind of a deduction. The reason there needs to be two of them is because we're unable to have an EMT work shifts, or, well, they're going to EMT school. They don't do us any good filling a shift because they have to be a minimum of an EMT to drive an ambulance. So that's the difference between the two. So the one is designed for fire and EMT, and the other one for paramedic.
Did you draft these yourself, or did you do R&D, which is duplicate?
No, I drafted them.
You did, based on something else you were
I researched a bunch of different ones
Okay.
and what the laws were, and I have the supporting documentation if you wanna see it.
No, I mean, I
I
didn't know
just
if
didn't know if I covered all the bases I needed to. I
yeah,
tried to,
right.
that I could foresee.
So John, the $2 one is for EMT? Is that what you said?
After the fact.
Okay.
John, what's the upfront cost for us about?
Pardon?
What's the upfront cost about for us to send someone?
For a fire class, it's between $600 and $1,200. For a EMT class, you would know more since you're the teacher.
Yeah, they were charging between 12 and 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ranges depending on what school they go to.
Right now, and the huge difference is the paramedic class. So it'll either be $4,000 or $16,000, depending on where they go. Obviously, we wouldn't go for the higher end
We're
because
25.
the problem with that is several years ago they changed the accreditation for it. So we used to teach them here in the department, and when they changed that, they removed all the satellites from that equation. So you have to be a designated teaching facility associated with a place of a college, basically.
So for item number 4, how many years do you think the employment commitment would be?
That would be dependent upon the cost of the class.
Okay.
That's why it was left blank. So
Gotcha.
if it was $600, you know, what was the length of time you want to recoup your money on? You give it if it's a firefighter, and it kind of varies as well, if they would be a paid on call, if we would be able to use them in that capacity, or if it was strictly a fill-in, somebody who lived outside of the area. Which the ultimate goal is to have paid on call, so we have people in the community that can respond. But the fact of the matter is there's not too many of them, so we kind of have to broaden our reach out a little bit. And this kind of helps guarantee that we get some use out of them after we have that investment.
Yeah, ideally, you know, this would all work out well. So what if, worst case scenario, you pay for somebody to go to classes and all this, and then they just do not fulfill, right? Like, so item 5, if the employee voluntarily resigns or is terminated for cause before completing the required employment period, the employee agrees to reimburse the department for training costs. So how?
Right, then basically we would have to sue them.
Okay.
So that is kind of covered under
Then this
number
is-
7.
Yeah.
But I I did have my own comment on that too, may result in repayment obligations. Do we want may or mandate it? Cause if it says may, it sounds a little arbitrary, like we're not sure if we're going to require it.
Okay.
I'm curious of your opinion.
No, I just kinda wanted to leave it open.
Well, I think you have that.
It's our discretion.
You have that clause as
It's
except
hardship.
for extenuating circumstances as determined by the department. I think that's your loophole, so to speak. That statement there gives you the ability to say, yeah, okay, we understand that. So maybe you don't need that ending part.
Well, extenuating though can be subjective.
It says as determined by the department.
Right, so he may not think it's subjective, but in a court of law, the person may. Or extenuating. I just think from a clearer perspective, it may be helpful here to have will be required unless waived by, due to extenuating circumstances. But I think may opens you up to some questions there. And I know exactly why you're doing this and I think it's great. But I think somebody reading this should know, hey, you're paying us back if you decide halfway through, my dog got really sick. He was really, really sick.
Yeah, no.
I can't go to
No,
school.
Yeah, I understand.
So it just may be helpful to have like, yes, you must pay us back. And then it would still permit you an out if you felt like somebody's, parents were ill or whatever, then you could permit it. But I personally think we should approach it with it will be required to be repaid.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally
I listened to
agree.
the HR lady.
And like you said, that wording would give you a little bit of an out if somebody is in
Yeah.
hardship or in a hard spot,
Yeah.
you can.
You
make
still
that
get your
call
out, but
and-
they don't.
Does anybody feel we need language in here that will pursue collection, things along those lines? If somebody
It's-
walks away?
I don't think it would hurt. Would you put that in 7?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, in those fees will be
Or under
compensatory as
repayment
well.
obligation.
Collection fees will be compensatory, be included in that. John, you guys said your team said the firefighter accreditation is between $600 and $1,200?
For the firefighter, yes.
Well, your second contract has a more detailed repayment obligation. Like with departing within a certain number of months, they have to pay back everything. Is this, I know you said that there's 2 agreements, but now I am having difficulty recalling why there's 2 agreements. Tell me again.
Just different options.
Okay, so I kinda like this whole repayment obligation thing in the second option where you've got, if you leave within this period of time, you owe us 100%. And if they've given you so many months and you've been able to deduct that $2 off their pay, then, if it's 3 months later or however much, they can, this kinda gives both parties a chance to see in writing what would it actually cost me if I left at this point, right?
Hey, John, give us, go ahead, sorry.
Or I could set it up differently, is just an hourly deduction instead of that style of breakdown.
I like the 100%, 75%.
I do too.
I like that.
No, I think
Okay.
that's good, John.
It's good.
I'm with Teresa, I think it explains it pretty well. It gives you some, once you fill it in, it's pretty straightforward.
I might put in here something like, they said departure within, this is assuming that they're actually working within those months.
Yeah, they'll have to fulfill their obligation, their minimum requirement obligation to us. Say, so for the percentage one, it's not based off a monetary or shift, it's more of the firefighter that lives in the area that's gonna be responding and coming. So
Okay.
you're gonna give us a length of service and we think it's worth this to us, so we'll accredit you this amount of money for that
Okay.
length of time.
Yeah, because their
But-
time is worth some money.
Still, I didn't wanna put a value on it because the program's cost changes
Mhm.
all the time.
Right, percentages works well for that.
Sure.
Well, and you typically, well, I guess you don't always, but often would bring this to the board for approval. I guess you don't have to if it's under 2,000.
No, I think I'd rather,
But it might be, especially if you're gonna have
especially
some
if
fluctuations.
there's multiple people doing it,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they're gonna be new.
Yeah,
So
most
it
of
would
them.
be kind of during their
Yeah.
hiring, I assume.
Yeah, if they're going through the fire or EMT, cause we give them the option to take either one first.
Yeah,
I mean, we prefer them to go through the fire first, cause it's a little bit easier and we kinda get a feel for them with,
yeah.
the less investment out of them.
Plus you
But-
can use them for calls, for
Yeah.
fires.
Yep.
This is just out of curiosity, so do you think, from your experience, that 4 24-hour shifts, like one a week, do you think that's pretty feasible for new people? Like, is that what you see from people who just leave?
Well, if they're willing to put the time into doing this much education, then yes.
Okay,
And it's 7 days a week, so
yeah,
I don't think it'll be too hard for them. And if not, we can alter that to match
right,
our investment.
yeah.
So help me with the math. So, 24 hours,
So that they would be paying $48 a shift.
yeah.
So it would be quite a length of time before they would repay it, and that's why the 4 days. Given it was a medic class, they'd be there
I
for
was actually gonna
7
say,
years.
I thought that was kind of aggressive, which I'm really
Right.
okay with, because it looks to me like in 6.2 months, you paid off a $1,200 obligation.
Mhm.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, subjectively, I don't know what the rest of the board
No, it was
feels.
you,
Well,
John.
plus, the
Yeah.
employee would have their own, ability to pay it off early if they wish to.
Yes. It is.
I think it's a decent idea. I leave it up to you and your team in terms of how many people you think you're gonna have to chase. I would like to believe not a whole lot.
Well, I'd like to think that, and that's part of the reason that I would like to, really wanted to do this more, because we have had quite a few people over the years that have gone through class and put all that time in. And a lot of it is their own money, where they've taken off work to go on their own and just don't wanna take the test. They're afraid to test, or they've failed the test and just won't take it again.
Okay.
So you're talking, the medic class, they have, 1,500 hours into it, or more, depending on the program and their clinical requirements, and they just drop and walk away from it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we have quite a few people like that.
Is there a tutoring program of some sort? Okay.
Hypothetically, yes.
Yeah, there is what do we call it?
Refresher.
Yeah.
There's a refresher course that you can go through if you don't pass the exam in the first 3 attempts that you're given when you
Okay.
initially pass the 16-month program to become a paramedic.
Okay.
This is the big one. That's the one that costs the most in terms of one person going to class for a big chunk of money. You get 3 chances to pass that exam after the fact, and after that you're required by the state to take a refresher program, and then you're given 3 more attempts at that exam. So as far as tutoring, as structured tutoring is that extra refresher program versus them coming to me and us studying something that they're struggling with, which is also an option as well.
Do we have many people that are interested in the paramedic?
Yes.
See, that's a big hit, and I'm worried about somebody walking away after the second week or something, if that's a possibility, and class says you're still on the hook for $4,000, or we've already paid it.
Right, they never pay it all up front.
Yeah,
It would,
if I could speak to that, the school
Yeah.
that I worked for before I got hired here, they paid, based on semesters. So it was 4 college semesters to get through a paramedic program, and you paid them one at a time. If I made it 3/4 of the way through semester 1, I owed the full amount for semester 1. So if somebody gets in 2 weeks and drops off, we're not gonna owe them that full amount of money,
Okay.
likely.
Gotcha.
And
Yes,
at the
it
place
sounds
where I
good.
worked, the paramedic program costs a lot of money. Versus going to like Genesis EMS education, it's a lot cheaper.
You're gonna make some changes then, Jim?
okay, so I'll make those changes and bring it back next month.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a nice idea.
Easy. And then I also have drafted up a non-full-time hiring policy, which would give me the ability to hire someone in between the board meetings, contingent on the next board meeting. So it'd be contingent upon their background check and interview process to be put on as a temporary interim until the next board meeting. And this would, the only reason I ask this is because we do have quite a few holes in our scheduling that we're having to pay overtime for, and I would be able to fill some of those if I could put people on, like Andre, I got his application the day after the board meeting. So, and the other thing is I come in and I ask to hire somebody that you don't have a clue who it is, any of his background, it all is off me. And then I can fire him whenever I want.
So this is a blanket yes, to get somebody on board, and then,
Temporary.
yeah, a
For-
temporary
so-
blanket yes.
So basically, what it would really do is in that time frame, it would probably only allow me to put him on and work him as a third rider to get his training in prior to coming to the board.
It would kind of rubber stamp, so I don't see any problem.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it speeds up the process for you,
Yeah.
just like you said, that one guy that just, the very next day, he came in right after a board meeting, so.
Okay.
No, I don't mind, I don't know what our total roster limitations are right now. I know before they were 49, I wouldn't mind putting something like that in or limiting it to 2 people per cycle, if that would make you feel better.
So you're not
Something of
hiring
that
one
nature. I don't
regular.
ever foresee any more than 2 people coming on anyways,
I was gonna say, you can't hardly hire one.
but yeah, I know.
What's your thoughts, Janelle, our HR person?
Well, we've kind of talked about a couple of these things already. Specified hire date. Whether it would be the day you bring this person on, because technically we would have already inputted everything into the system, but it wouldn't, that individual wouldn't actually have board approval until a board meeting, so probably wouldn't really matter for the most part, except for now we're talking about those 60 days till you get benefits or whatever. When does that start? So I think we would need to clarify that.
Are we allowed at a board meeting to say, we hire, we approve John's hire of this particular person?
Effective.
Retroactive back to the state?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this would be fine. The only issue that I could see running into, and I don't think, I already kind of mentioned it to you, was that if there was somebody that this board had a problem with, for whatever reason, just so you know, I don't think there's even anybody
What I
in the
did
community
this
that I
almost
have a problem with.
like 3 weeks ago, I think I did put something in there where, or maybe I just thought about it, where I have to ask.
Oh, and we had talked
I
about
mean,
it.
it would kind of be obvious anyways, cause you would have his application and
Yeah.
information.
Like I said, I don't even think there'd be anybody in the community that you could bring to me that I'd be like, no, not that person. But the board may feel differently. That's the
Mhm.
only thing that I could see that could be kind of like murky waters that we could run into, is if we hired somebody and then as the board, we're like, that guy worked here a long time ago, and they're like, oh, he's bad news in the community or whatever. That's the only time that I can see that that would be really honestly a bigger problem for you.
Yeah.
If the board then said, no, we're not doing this. But then he's already, or she, that was really bad. He or she,
Yeah, maybe that,
I know.
well, you don't have to do that anymore.
You know, then we've already completed the paperwork, the expense of the background check. They've been in the, you know, doing the third rides. That's the only thing that I can see that could
True,
potentially
but,
be an
you know,
issue, but
I guess, along those lines, it's no different than being a probationary employee. And
Yeah.
having your monthly.
yeah,
and
and
your
I
6-month
understand the
review,
importance
so.
of this, I really do, so I, at the very least, if we don't agree to it, I do think that we should grant some permissions at the very least for pursuing the background check prior to a board meeting, because that's something we can get moving. We can start moving with some of the paperwork, even if we don't officially hire. Now, it could be an expense, but you risk that with anyone.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd say we do that anyway.
Well, assuming he wants to hire a particular person, that person couldn't start working until they do a background check, right? Like, you're not gonna have somebody working until they actually come here to the township, complete the paperwork and get the background check finished.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, I couldn't even offer him that until all
Right,
that was completed.
yeah, so like right now, you just hired, what's his name?
Andre?
But like, we haven't even done the background check yet, so we won't even start that until tomorrow, ideally,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So then we're still looking at a few days, collecting the paperwork. So at the very least, if we didn't implement something like this, I think we definitely should at least allow the beginning of that paperwork to be processed and the background check, completion, because at least then we kind of get the wheels moving. And he could have people hired, you know,
Yeah.
for the next 24-hour shift on a Tuesday if we had everything else in order. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
okay.
that and a minimum would be a
Yeah,
great improvement.
I do see the importance of this. I know that you guys, you know, you're struggling with keeping getting bodies in there, but like I said, that's the only situation that I could see running into, is if for whatever reason the board didn't, you know, had an issue with somebody.
The only thing I will say to that is, I know what you're saying, but I think a lot of that goes into John.
Right.
I mean, it's John that's hiring them. We trust his
We get to
judgment
work
when
with
he
them.
brings them here. Yes, for lack of better words, he gets to live with them.
For better or worse, right?
Well, I didn't want to point fingers at anybody. I just finished reading. I myself am good with John's policy. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, content-wise, I think it's fine. I'm not a legal person, so I don't know if he's covered every single base
And
he's
I
supposed
think
to.
he's correct in one aspect, that it would basically be about probably 3 route rounds before
Right.
the actual next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it'll help you and speed up the process, I make a motion that we, accept, John's policy here for non-full-time personnel hiring policy.
Second.
Roll call, please, Lauren.
Keith Weiderholt,
Yes.
Kevin Scrammer,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Yeah.
Teresa Bells,
Yes.
Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Just,
Could we send it to ECDO?
could we send what?
To ECDO,
Could we send what?
the policy?
The policy? Sure.
And have them
Yeah.
double check it?
Absolutely. You mentioned 2 people per cycle? Did you?
Yeah, if you wanted to put a cap on it, something like that, like I said, I don't ever foresee there being 2 people anyways.
Yeah.
It would just be a sporadic.
So I will tell you, and I don't think that you would be one to do this, but like if we implemented this policy and let's say you decided you're gonna go, I don't know, move to Alaska next week.
Mm-hmm.
And another fire chief came in, is purposely skirting around taking it to the board meeting. Again, I don't think you're gonna do that. But I do like that idea of having a cap specifically for that reason for somebody down the road.
It's a good idea.
When you send it to ECDO, we'll put it right in the policy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was to your recommendation?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I don't think it would be wise to take on more than 2 people at a time, anyways, to fill positions like that.
Sure.
It would be
Yeah. And you gotta do the training.
too much
Get them
for
all
our size
organized
to be
and
able to
stuff.
Yeah.
Especially
bring
in
them
that
on board.
Yep.
Our community risk reduction, now that Sergeant Millar's gone, we had 2 more, the commercial Knox boxes were purchased last month, and actually, they just purchased, another one was purchased yesterday, I approved. And a total of 16, so 17 within the last year were installed, so, a little bit of motivation, and we've gotten pretty good compliance compared to the years past, because we've always done the Knox box program, and it's never been enforced, or, kind of motivated the businesses that way, and they're all extremely happy with it now once they realize, it's a reduction in possible damage to their property when we get called out there, so. Then we've distributed 20 smoke detectors through the MI prevention program. Those are the ones we get free from the state. And all the fire suppression wells have been tested, and they are all in working order. Yay. Our EMS. Kyle Bruder's begun teaching the ACLS classes, and he's ordering the teach materials for the BLS pairs and PALS classes, so we can start doing that in-house. And so he's doing exactly as he said he would. Hopefully save us a lot of money versus having to bring an instructor in. Because it's on average, the ACLS class is $275 a class, so it has added up over the years.
Yeah, they'd pay me $375 to teach one of those. Yeah, it's expensive. But I was working with Genesis, my friends at EMS Education, to potentially try and get us all of those things at like market cost for them. So still working on that, pulling the strings. They did hook us up with some ACLS and PALS books for what was half the price, still in the package, brand new, for what we would have to pay through the link online. So
Good.
it'll save us a lot of money.
Thank you.
And my ultimate goal through that is, since Kyle has quite the history in teaching, and as you all know, Burdess and a couple other people in the area have recently gotten their IC classes, that we'll be able to do a kind of like a consortium that each month our departments will offer one of the trainings. So say this month we offer ACLS, and Springfield will offer the pairs class or PALS class, and Knoxville will do the BLS class, and then we switch next month. So every month there will be a class available somewhere in it.
Good.
So,
Cool.
because it's always a problem trying to get compliance with people. It never happens at a good time. For years we tried to do one time through the year to give everybody their ACLS. So this week everybody has to take it. Well, half the people are on vacation, some people are sick, so it never works out. So trying a different program. And the other departments seem to be quite on board with it, so hopefully it'll grow into a lot more things we can do. Sean Dobbs gotten to a point in his instructor class where he's begun doing his student teaching. So he's done quite a few classes at the department and he's quite well, doing really good at it. We've done the department trainings for the Carter kits that Teddy presented last month, and they're on the trucks. Kim has finished from Star, that does our billing. She's completed her section of the Medicaid ambulance cost recovery program that we have to fill out. So we do that. It was completed on a different program, it's called Amber, and the reason to do that is because you can jump around in between it and fill out the different sections versus the Medicaid section. You go in and you answer a question and then it says, oh yeah, you have to answer 4, 5, and 6, or oh no, you don't have to answer those ones because you answered this. So it is an evolving survey. So the Amber is supposed to cover all your bases in that. She just got that done, so the Amber is 100% complete now, and we began importing all that data into the Medicaid system. So hopefully that'll be done soon. Then protecting access to ground ambulance Medicaid Services Act, HR 2232, was introduced into Congress on March 18th. And what that does is it would extend a temporary Medicaid add-on payment. For us, it would be the 3% increased reimbursement for being rural. It's kind of incremental. So urban would get 2%, and a super rural, like in the UP, they would get a 22.6% increase on their revenues. So that was to sunset shortly. I think it was July, but I gotta write it on here. And that would extend that reimbursement until January 1st of 2028. And all of our report cards are attached, as always, they're pretty good. A couple of things on the hospital, but good.
Standard.
Yeah, as far as operations, the Station 2 generators run several times due to power outages, so it's a good thing we got it fixed. It's perfect timing. The construction on 75 has begun, and it makes access to it very difficult. They do have a couple changes from last year. They increased some turnoffs for us and made it a little easier to use the haul road, but it's still quite difficult to access, especially on the opposing lanes of traffic. We do have an operational plan in place with the surrounding departments, and it seems to be working out quite well this year. We've added in Independence and Grand Blanc to it, and so far we've had, I think, 6 calls on 75 at this time, and they've all gone pretty smoothly. So it's a good change from last year. The rental house, the water softener, has been canceled. It wasn't there, so they actually took it out before, but they were still billing us. So I called and said, hey, I want to cancel this. And she's like, oh, I think it's gone already. So I'm like, I'm gonna go check. So I went and looked in the basement and it's gone. So she was supposed to give us a credit on that. And then trench drains and the sediment pit were cleaned at Station 2. That's quite a task. Takes about a day and a half to pull all those grates up and shovel them out and clean the drain piping and the pit out over there. Company training, medical trainings. Last month we did protocol updates, adult patient assessment, adult airway, autism, pediatric patient assessment, and pediatric airway. And we're currently in the process of doing our annual bloodborne pathogens and HIPAA training. And for fire training, we put on a coordination of suppression and ventilation class, a water supply, a hose loads class, pump operations, SCBA inspection, ladder truck operations, hose lines and nozzle patterns, conference, a driver's training class, a plans review, and a area-wide vehicle extrication class, and that one was put on by NACFA that all the surrounding departments attended. Last month, we did a total of 91 calls versus the previous year. In 24, we did 61 calls, so we're up about 30 calls. We had several more to Mount Holly this year than we did last year, and then 75 we were also up on. So we're up 289 this year from 260 calls at this point last year. Incidents of importance. We had a storage shed fire right up the road here off a trip. It was fully involved upon arrival. The fire was called in by a neighbor. The homeowner was unaware. It was fully involved when they got there. It was starting to catch the side of the house on fire. So it was caught just in time. We don't know the source of ignition on it. Everything in the shed was a total loss. We were dispatched to Brandon to assist on a chimney fire, but we were canceled en route. They handled it by themselves. We had a grass fire on M15 back in the swamp, burned approximately 2 acres. The way the wind was blowing, it came from the back of the swamp. So it was undetermined on how it started unless some kids were back there on the other side. But there was about 4 inches of water in the swamp grass, so it's kind of very strange for it to have happened.
So it was
But
growing.
there was no fire going around in the area, so unless somebody like shot a bottle rocket off or something, I don't know.
Is that the one that was up across the street from Bedrock or something like that?
Yeah, yep. Let's see, there was an outside fire at a business right there next to Beaky's, the Rose Paving. One of the yard guys was burning some debris inside their cement containment walls where they used to have like their mulch and stone when they used to do landscaping back there. It got so hot that it broke the stone. You know, it was a big retaining wall, 2 foot by 2 foot by 3 foot stone, and cracked that and allowed the flames to get out, and they had some piping and ag mat sitting right on the other side, so it caught that on fire. A lot of smoke. It filled up downtown with smoke, and actually Quap is the chief of Brandon. You know, just before we got a call, he looked out his window and downtown was filled up, so he got out and he drove over there, found it, and he'd actually had his guys on the way to it just as we were told, so that worked out quite well, because it's all wooded area behind it, about 2 lots back there. It could have spread really far because it's all dead vegetation on the ground there with the leaves. Township attractions, we had none. Community outreach, as we talked about before, the naloxone dispensary boxes were stripped throughout the county, and he didn't have any answer before, but I guess they replaced some of
Just today.
the boxes in there, so I didn't ever look and see how much he put in there, if he fully filled them or just put a
It's
small
almost
amount.
full.
It's almost falling.
And then the medication drop-off boxes are all labeled. They're just waiting on their delivery people to bring it out. So that'll be at Station 1 here shortly.
Are those for waste medications?
Yeah, for prescription drugs, and primarily, it's really for dry drugs. What we can do too is sometimes we can get their little packets of absorbent. We just squeeze the liquid into it and then throw it in the same container as that. And then on the last sheet in there, I revised and completed the Alzheimer's Dementia and Special Needs Information Care file, and that's to be filled out and left at the home with the patient. So when we arrive on scene there, they can give that to us. We actually went last week. There's a family up off Hawley Road that they have several special needs kids with trachs and cerebral palsy and everything. And gave them to them, and they kind of explained this individual needs of their children, so it worked out pretty well. And to be able to respond and give them care more appropriately faster. It's usually hectic for them when they're there. And that is all I have.
Excellent. I'm sure you want to stay here longer, Janelle. Did you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Actually, I did have to make one comment. I meant to say it during my quick report. I know you already know. In the appropriations, in the budget, Kyle Bruder's pay actually, I don't remember what his, I have it here with me, but anyway, the hundreds position was shifted to a 2 instead of a 7. It should have been a 7. That's what he was hired at, with no change in his pay. But we actually approved the 218 instead of 718, so it's just a clerical change that I will make. It should not impact the cost center. If it does down the road, you know, during the year, then we'll just make a budget amendment. But from our budget perspective, it will be the correct amount that we did agree on. So that was just a point of information. So if, I don't know, if you were like comparing numbers someday and we're like, why is this now a 7 and not a 2? That's why.
No, I think it did. After that change, it balanced back out, didn't it? That was a while ago.
Yeah. It's all right.
There's been so much between then and now.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn at 10:20 p.m.
I'll second that.
You'll second that. All those in favor?
Okay.